Okay, I am pleased to call to order the regular meeting, November 9th, 2022, regular meeting of the San Ramon Parks and Community Services Commission. Let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Osland,
Present.
Commissioner Breed,
Present.
Commissioner Mitra,
Present.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Present.
Commissioner Ellicott Pesic,
Present.
Student Commissioner Arpita Gupta,
Present.
Chair Keniston Lee.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Item 4, special items and announcements. 4.1, temporary employee of the month for October, Brand Kroger. And James is going to tell us all about Brand.
Thank you. The City of San Ramon Parks and Community Services Department would like to recognize Brand Kroger, Building Attendant 2, and the Facilities Division as the temporary employee of the month for the month of October. Brand has been working as a building attendant for the Parks and Community Services Department since November of 2021. Brand has made a reputation throughout the department for being an exceptional staff member with a warm, welcoming personality during his tenure. Brand has consistently exceeded expectations with tasks for all divisions and always demonstrates superior customer service at all of our facilities. As a result of this, Brand was promoted to Building Attendant 2 earlier this month. During the summer of 2022, Brand played a critical role with the weekend facility rentals while working through a staffing shortage. Brand dedicated upwards of 30 hours a week to ensure we had the coverage needed to accommodate the reservation requests the facilities division was receiving. In addition to this, his assistance at all of our community centers as serving as a lead staff during our city programs and private rentals, we would like to also recognize Brand for his many talents and his ability to apply them to the position whenever the opportunity arises. Brand has an eye for design and has been sharing his gifts, specifically with organizing the seasonal display case at the Al Costa Senior and Community Center.
Thank you.
Brand recognizes that these additional details go a long way with the seniors and visiting with this location. The City of San Ramon Parks and Community Services Department would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Brand Kroger for his efforts in providing excellent service throughout the city's facilities.
Okay.
Thank you. All those things that James said are true, and I owe it all to James for being such a great boss. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I love his enthusiasm. And I wanted to say, because we always get reports on our. And I wanted to say that I particularly love how welcoming you are because we like to promote a welcoming community, that you focus on customer service. That was great. And also clearly your team color. I'm sure the manager James you appreciate that.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so we've also got item 4.2, special announcements.
I always have some special announcements for you. So one quick reminder that when you do speak, make sure you hit your speaker button on the little, so the light goes on. Yeah, so you get your little red light, because I know sometimes we forget and then it doesn't get picked up on the recording as well and people can't hear. So just try and remember that. I have an exciting idea that Chair Keniston Lee brought up, so I'm bringing it to all of you, that perhaps we could have a holiday potluck before our December meeting. So I will make sure we email that out to you and see if there is interest. And if so, then we can have a little potluck pre-meeting next month. So I'm seeing some nodding heads, so I'm thinking that's probably going to be a yes. So
This is the
plan on
kind of
now
value
and-
I add.
we'll follow up.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm in Australia, so I can't.
Okay, can't complain about that. All right. We will be looking probably to set up a program committee meeting maybe on November 30th. Just as a heads up, Christy's going to be emailing out to everybody on that one. And I have a few upcoming events that I'd like to tell you about. So coming up on November 19th, we have Lady K and the Kings of Swing concert. Super fun. You all know, and you had a memo at your place in regards to the Bah Humbug Run, which is coming up on December 3rd. And that, of course, is in the morning, and we would love to have some commissioners to help hand out the ornaments and the awards. That evening, it's very exciting. We have the big return after a many-year hiatus of the City of San Ramon traditional tree lighting ceremony. So pretty exciting to see that come back. It'll be from 4 to 6. And we'll be lighting the tree in the meadow, and there'll be some celebratory activities in City Hall. So hopefully you'll be able to stop by and participate in that.
The date.
Is also December 3rd. Yeah, so the Bah Humbug Run will be in the morning and then the tree lighting in the evening. We've got a library jazz concert that night too. So as always, we have a lot of things going on and they all tend to land in the same windows. The next weekend after that, on the 10th, we'll have Holiday on the Farm. That's a huge event. And we'll round out our holiday season celebrations on 12/16 with the San Ramon Symphonic Band Holiday Concert and on 12/17 with the Community Chorus Holiday Concert. So there's a lot of holiday fun to be had in San Ramon. So hopefully we'll see you out there at some of it.
Thank
That's it.
you. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, did we have any public comment for either of the items under item 4? Good. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're going to go to item 5, our regular public comment or written communication. At this time, members of the public are encouraged to address the Parks and Community Services Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda. Comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Comments can also be submitted through email to ctoman@sanramon.ca.gov. No commission action can be taken at this meeting on issues raised during public comment, whether submitted by email or Zoom. Do we have any? I know we have one comment card. Do we have any online comments as well?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay,
online.
so Chris Jane. This is under public comment. So. Yeah, come on up. Your turn.
Hi, my name is Chris Jane, and I'm a senior at Doherty Valley High School. And we are residents of the East Branch Park community, and we wanted to discuss the installment of lights at the East Branch Park basketball court. So as teenagers, we enjoy playing basketball at East Branch, and during the summer, we would have ample time to play. We played till 8:30 to 9 when it got dark much later. And now with shorter days and daylight savings, it gets dark at 5 and we have no opportunity to play. We get home at 4 and we have homework, extracurriculars, and many other responsibilities that don't give us enough time to play basketball before it gets dark. So we are hoping that a lamppost or some lights could be installed at the basketball court so that we can continue to play after dark. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you heard me say that we can't comment on your public comment, but
Of course.
staff has taken note. And so thank you for
Yeah,
talking to us.
thank you.
All right. And our next public comment will come from Taiwanza Country.
Hi, as a public speaker, I just noticed that recently there is a variation of when this committee meet in terms of time and also methods. So last time there was a meeting that took place at 4 p.m. and it was by remote access only. It wasn't physical. So I was wondering what led to those kind of variations. And I also have a comment about teen council meeting time and dates that I would like to address this committee, because I remember Commissioner Ellicott Pesek had mentioned before that she serves on the district's PTA. So right now, a parent like me who is facing the fact that the physical meetings are taking place with teen council meetings are always and have been consecutively for the past 2 months fall on the same days and around, half an hour difference on overlapping the district's board meeting. So as a parent who has been following the agendas of teen council meetings, I noticed that a lot of their action items will take place at the school sites, which really is off limits from our city councils, nor any boards of this government. Because in the United States, we have separation of power. Each each jurisdiction has their own unique power. So right now, I feel like the teen council board is extending their illegitimate power to the school district's power, because whatever you want to do, even though it could be benign or even constructive, such as Unity Day, is not approved nor authorized nor even made aware to the school board, which is really, in my opinion, a disrespect, because SRVUSD, whose board are elected by not just parents, but taxpayers. And those stakeholders, which not just encompass the city of San Ramon, but Danville and other unincorporated areas, thank you, should have a say. So I feel that, in case that I accuse you for extending your illegitimate power or in your action, at the school site that causes mishaps, that you carefully look into how you conduct your business at this time, so as to let everyone know what you're doing and, respect each other's authorities. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask staff to answer any questions offline. Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any other general public comment? Anything online? No. Okay, so public comment is now closed. We'll go to item 6, approval of minutes for the October 12th meeting. As usual, we assume that everybody's reviewed those prior to coming here. And do I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes.
Commissioner Breed, and do I have a second? A second, Commissioner Lopez Lucy, and we'll go ahead and take a vote. Are we online voting tonight? Awesome. Okay.
Let's see, second.
All right, we have a 6-0 vote with one person absent. Commissioner Dorlick absent. Okay, so the motion passes. Okay, great. Item 7, consent calendar. Do we have any consent items? No consent items. We're moving right along. We're going to go to commission business. Item 8.1, Bishop Ranch BR1A, the South Parkway Green conceptual plan feedback. And that will be presented by Jerry Engen from Sunset. And then who from staff will be?
So
Yeah.
I will go ahead and do the introduction.
Yeah.
Is that okay
Mhm.
with you?
Yeah, okay. With
All
us.
right.
Just
So-
this once. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Let me move my little speaker a little closer there. So this evening, you have the opportunity to provide feedback on the first of 7 parks to be developed in the City Walk area, specifically the Bishop Ranch 1A or South Parkway Green. That's a temporary name, so don't get too stuck on that. But just to get everyone a little background and kind of bring us up to speed with where we are. So Sunset Development entered into a development agreement with the City of San Ramon for the City Walk project that was approved by the City Council back on 11/24 in 2020. The development agreement includes 7 parks within the project area that will be, this is the key part, privately owned, publicly accessible spaces, also known as POPAs. It's a cute name. This arrangement provides a distinct advantage to the city as the parks will be built and maintained by Sunset Development, but will be open and accessible to the full community. The arrangement really is very advantageous for the city as it provides the community with the assets, but without the cost of the maintenance. And so we get all that at recreational space and no additional costs on an annual basis into perpetuity. The Parks Commission does not have formal authority to approve or disapprove the conceptual plan. However, Sunset Development did agree to get feedback from the Parks Commission as each new park is being developed and to ensure that the current and future needs of the community are being addressed. And we know the community is going to change over time. And this is a long plan. The City Walk plan will take years to complete, and things and needs will change. So that is a part of this puzzle, is that Bishop Ranch is willing to come and talk to you to get the feedback to make sure that what they're putting together is in the best interest of the community. However, it's not like the rest of our parks where you would actually approve or disapprove a plan. This is an opportunity to provide feedback. So the Facilities Committee reviewed the proposed park on October 26, 22, and overall they liked the design and the creative intentional process used to generate the layout of the park. The committee suggested having an artistic play feature. Of course, I always love that. That is more of a passive play area due to that close proximity it has to the senior housing. They made several suggestions regarding amenities, including refillable water bottle stations, a dog area, dog bag stations, bike parking, nice wide pathways that would accommodate lots of people and strollers and bicycles, low-level lighting throughout the park, additional shade and seating, Wi-Fi, and use of drought-tolerant plants. In addition, they reiterated the importance of ensuring the objectives and connections to the walking district and the bike master plan were taken into consideration as the park is developed. So at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Jerry Engen, Senior Vice President of Development and Construction with Sunset Development. And I think you've got maybe Fletcher Studios here. There we are. Landscape design team to take you through the plan, answer questions, and get feedback from the commission. And of course, I'm available as well. So
Thank you,
take it away,
Kathy. You did
Jerry.
a great job. Made my job a lot easier. It's good to be here, Chair Kennison Lee and the members of the commission. Excited to be in front of you, and after all these pandemic, Zoom meetings, so it's great to be in person. I do want to say that I have David Fletcher here from Fletcher Design Studio, who will take you through the actual presentation. And I have Stephanie Hill as well, who's with Sunset Development. And so we had a great presentation to the Parks Facilities meeting. We got great feedback. We will take that into account, of course, in all of the comments that we received tonight. I do want to say that we, as Bishop Ranch, take a long-term view of everything we do. We actually, as we started to embark on this design, started to look at things that were important to us, which is how is longevity. We looked at parks that have been around for 100 years all around the world and what makes those parks great, what makes them stand the test of time. And that's important to us. We didn't want them to be trendy and come in and out. We wanted these parks to really stand the test of time. And I think earlier this year, Kathy did a great job in presenting to you kind of the difference from urban parks from neighborhood parks, which was very helpful. So we're excited that this is our first neighborhood of our long-standing City Walk plan that was approved a few years ago in this first neighborhood. And it's really exciting that this neighborhood is really being built all at once, and that we have Belmont Village is building the senior facility. We have Related is going to build the about 385 apartments. And then we have the park, and all that's going to get built at the same time versus over time. So it's really exciting that this first neighborhood can happen all together. So we did go through a long and iterative process just on our own side to make sure we were doing the right thing and creating a park that's going to stand the test of time, and looked at that park and asked actually David and his team to look at all of the parks surrounding us and all of our parks and just take a high level view of what we can do where, because each park in each neighborhood is going to have its own feel and its own use, and the people that are going to use that park will be different constituents. Even though it's open to the full public, but generally the people that live closest to it will use it more than anybody else. And so when we looked at the park for BR1A, we looked at the constituents being the people that work in BR1, the transit hub that's planned there, the senior housing, the apartments, and we are very close to Iron Horse Trail. And as Kathy noted, the walking district is important, and we're intimately involved with the city and with the various people putting together the park walking district plan, as much of it is within Bishop Ranch, and we are making sure that all of our developments tie and connect to all of that. And you'll be glad to see that this park is very close and has connections to Iron Horse Trail. So that's that's a good thing for how this is all coming together. And as Kathy mentioned, it's, Sunset is paying for the design, construction and maintenance of the park in perpetuity. And so we're very pleased to be able to bring this forward to you as the first one. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to David to walk you through, and then I'll be here to answer questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening, commissioners. My name is David Fletcher, of Fletcher Studio Landscape Architecture at San Francisco office. We focus specifically on public work, parks, waterfronts, and really excited and actually very grateful to be working on the first of the public spaces or parks that we're going to be implemented. As Jerry mentioned, we're going to look at the open space context a little bit, zoomed pretty far out, and then look within the context of City Walk, their master plan, to situate the park, and then talk about the park design and concept itself. And so, as you can see, City Walk situated, we looked, and at the larger picture at all of the San Ramon is really gifted with large park systems and access to open space. And it was very impressive. As you know, City Walk and the park itself will be very close to the Iron Horse Trail. And then when you zoom in, there are quite a few different types of parks and open spaces. We looked at also that context, what is offered at some of the parks, recreation facilities, community centers, et cetera. And it's by no means like a comprehensive needs analysis or anything to really inform, what or to make up gaps necessarily, but it was just the way we were encouraged by Jerry, Alex, and the team to really think holistically. And for the City Walk open space, the green represents these setbacks, or these like 60-foot kind of setbacks that will feel like a greenway, feel like an emerald necklace. And that kind of description, like the Olmstedian almost, Boston emerald necklace became this guiding notion. You can see then 7 parks. And they were also thought about them. The initial concept, when you think about an emerald necklace and how if you're walking down an emerald necklace, you're going from one emerald to another, and you might get bigger or smaller. And we encouraged, and there was resonance in the idea of it being more like a charm bracelet. It's still jewelry, but it's something where these parks would then be designed perhaps by different designers and be really, really distinct, and really each one its own bespoke kind of solution, as Jerry mentioned, that really serves and communicates with its immediate neighborhood. So the park that we're going to be talking about, South Parkway Green, is in number 1 in pink. Also, you can see that the way that development will occur would be extremely walkable. There's porosity you can see throughout the entire neighborhood, and large walking loops and connections to the Iron Horse Trail. And that there would be different neighborhoods, and each park would serve that. We also looked at the programs, took a early pass at different programs projecting what might serve, for example, the city center or our neighborhood park. Right now, we have a transit hub, we have a play area, we have exercise nodes, picnic and seating, and a large green is what you're going to see as a solution. But throughout encouraging farmers markets and connections, pollinator gardens and learning gardens, and just a whole kind of string of different potential programs that would also public art has been something that's been consistently discussed. So if you zoom in, the current park design is at number 1. You can see its connection also to the setbacks, the 60-foot setback or greenways, and the large City Walk walking loop. You also see on the left-hand side, the apartment building that Related is developing that Jerry mentioned, and the senior housing that's to Page North. So with that idea of jewelry or the emerald necklace or the charm bracelet, we got interested in jewelry, and not so much just its formal qualities, but how it grows. And we proposed 3 different park designs initially to the team. One that was based on amber and how amber might grow over time. One was based on crystals and how they grow. And we settled on this idea of the abalone shell as being something that just plates that kind of grow from exterior to the interior, something that's very organic and flowing and beautiful. And so came up with some very early concepts that all had to do with these different zones and settled on a series. And you can see this is actually the development, if you read it like a book from left to right, of the design as being presented and developed over time. It's still a work in progress, but we think that we've gotten it to the point where it's really working quite well. So you would see early iteration all the way down to the lower right, which is the current design that you will see today. The programs are pretty simple: a large quad or urban green, a transit center along Bishop Branch. At the top and near the front entry to the housing project, and also adjacent to the senior housing, would be a large playground that would be more of a universal playground, more of a bespoke kind of artwork. And you can also see some images of projects that we've done in the past. In pink, a picnic orchard. And then what we're calling kind of a garden or a pollinator garden in blue. Also to the left, we'll see, actually, let me just zoom in. To the left between the BR1A housing and the park, there is a promenade that would connect both. We're also working with Related on the housing project. And so you have one office that's working on the park design and also working on the housing project. So those things will come together and share resources, share space, and kind of blur and not be two different ideas. So that promenade, I'm going to see if I can get the mouse to work. There we go. So the promenade is here. That would connect up to the Greenway and transit hub. And you also have, you'll see in some of our renderings, like a linear perimeter, right? This trees or alleys or the kind of straight lines, and also straight lines of paving that help integrate the modern transit hub into a space that's repeated and almost bracketing it on the top and bottom. You also see two pathways that serve almost to embrace the park. It's almost like arms, two different colored paving, one that is kind of a lightish beige, and then one that is almost kind of an orange, that come together in this large bench and stage moment that would be near the transit hub. And then we'll see it a little bit better through some of our diagrams, but also shade structures. We know that shade is really, really important. And so providing those for the children's play area and providing those for the picnic area, but have them be light and things that have vines on them and growing and more of organic design is preferable. So this diagram, we're asked by the facilities committee about pathway widths. So we updated this diagram to show these pathways are meant for multiple people to be walking 3 abreast or 2 abreast at the very least, but they also taper to become a little bit more intimate in some places. So what rings the internal quad are pathways that vary from 15 down to about 7 feet wide. The promenade itself is minimum of 15 feet, but it feels bigger in places because its edge is varied. It's not a straight shot. From the Parkway Green, you have a 8-foot separated bike path that integrates with a sidewalk along Bishop Ranch. And then you have a sidewalk going north-south. And so that's the circulation. There were questions also at the facilities committee about seating. What's shown in blue are built-in, sometimes concrete, sometimes wood seating. You can see examples of it here. There'll also be bottle filling stations and drinking fountains, shade structures, which you can see in kind of pink, in an idea or a concept image is to the upper right. The wood stages that you see here, one for the play area and one for the transit zone, is a wood deck kind of seating. And then there will be also lighting, subtle lighting. We're very interested in doing lighting that would kind of turn off at night, but also we've been doing more recently motion sensing lighting. So you walk into a space and it kind of dims on and it almost welcomes you to the space itself and then becomes safe. And also, you know that somebody is in the park. So it's a really nice kind of feedback and it reduces energy usage. And so it does all those good things. The materials themselves will be paving and pavers with patterns, concrete paving, natural lawn, artificial turf, decomposed granite are some of the materials that we're putting forward. The trees are really special. So also this kind of solid lines that talk to the history of agriculture, to talk to orchards, groves, right? And so those are helping order one side of the park. The transit center you can see is locked in with a alley or orchard that just kind of continues it and frames this nice linear space, kind of elongates it for people to wait for people, meet. You have the greenway trees that are more wild. They're coming around the corner. They need to be bigger because they need to mitigate the size of this new building and help the park feel separated, help the park feel like you're in a park and there happens to be a building there. You're not in a park that's a part of the building. So that was really important that this let's say, grouping of trees are rounding the corner and then taking over a side of the park in contrast to the order of the straight lines of the other trees. It's an important element. A lot of the species are oaks and elms, a lot of natives, very low water needy trees, and of different sizes and scales. The planting below, there'll be bioretention areas for stormwater that will accept water from some of the hard surfaces. And we're using a mix of native plants, some succulents, some Australian plants that are really appropriate to this climate, and also plants that connect to the larger master plan for the streets. And you'll see that in the street buffer on the very bottom images. So the image you're seeing is looking back towards the housing project, and it's showing the transit hub, a plaza. And the transit hub is almost integrated with an orchard. So the orchard, it wouldn't be real fruit trees, although I'd love it if they could be. But then the transit hub is just a part of a larger idea, integrated as a green edge for the park. The wall that you're seeing here, the stage area, is this big, thick. It's meant also to collect people, that people would sort of be there. You can imagine that somebody's playing guitar, or you can imagine that there's some event happening there, but it also acts as a buffer for the park itself so that people aren't just flowing and wearing that edge of the park. It's a little bit of a resilience move. And the two edges, and you can't really see it as well in the plan, but you can really see it here, are really varied. You're meant to meander and kind of discover. It we don't want it to be something where you walk into the space and you just get it right away. We want things that you have to go around corners and you have to explore. And especially if you're a child, to explore and feel kind of separated from the city to some degree. So we're using topography as well. It's hard to see as well, but there's the plants that you see, for example, here are part of topography that is coming back into the park and sloping. You're also seeing some traffic calming measures. There's a traffic table that is here. The play area was situated, we felt it was the best location here because of its adjacency to the front entry of the apartment building, but also its adjacency to the senior housing. And it's a very low traffic comparative street to the other streets. And we felt it really wanted to be in that corner and buffered really well. It will have low enclosures, so there will be fences and gates, but low, just so that parents feel safe when their children are there. And again, with this image, you see the porte cochere and the entry to the apartment building, the promenade, the transit hub orchard, and then the sidewalk, and then this internal space that thickens to provide amenities. This image looking back towards the apartment building and showing the wood stage and entry to the lawn, and a feeling of separation, that the park itself is a refuge, and the integration again of the transit hub with the orchard. Here you're looking back towards transit hub you can see, if you look at the little key plan up here, you can see where the image, but this also tries to express that wild edge where the trees are jumping into the lawn, they're kind of unruly, misbehaving trees, and they're meant to be really big and shady. And with that, I would say thank you. This last slide is a landing slide for discussion.
Yeah, I want to add a couple of other comments. As Kathy mentioned, that we're working with our internal branding department to figure out neighborhood names and streets and park names. So that will come. So the name of the park will come later. The other component I wanted to touch on is that we're working with the planning staff in the city to allow us to aggregate all of the art fees, a portion of the art fees from the various buildings to us, so that we can do something more meaningful as an art piece in the park, as opposed to having the Belmont Village, or sorry, yeah, the senior housing do a small art piece that only the seniors will see, and a small art piece that only the apartment people would see in their community area. We're going to be able to collect those fees, do something much more special in the park, so that's something that everybody can enjoy. And so that's, you know, how we're going to handle the art piece throughout all of the neighborhoods as we move forward. So again, thank you. And we're here to answer any questions.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up for clarifying questions. We're going to transition to public comment, and then we will go to commissioner comments, starting with anybody from facilities who'd like to get the ball rolling. So do we have any clarifying questions? Yeah, use your handy dandy electronic device here. Let's see here. All right, we're going to start with Commissioner Breed. I haven't heard one bell. I'd like the record to show.
Hey, first of all, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have a couple clarifying questions for you on, tell me my questions about the transit center and what activity will be taking place. Is it like, and I'm assuming it's like the transit center. I'm telling you what I'm assuming, like the one we have now with the buses going in and out. So that would be really helpful.
Sure. So the transit facilities these transit hubs are going to be much different than your existing transit hub, where you have 3 buses stationed and bathrooms and all that. So when we did the City Walk master plan, the original way the buses work that we have at Bishop Ranch to take people to and from both BART facilities, that comes into Chevron, comes into BR1, and it kind of does a milk run between buildings. So if you're taking the bus in transit and you work at BR15, you're going to be 20 minutes getting through the park before you get to your stop. So that makes it fairly inefficient, and we're trying to encourage ridership. So when we did City Walk, with the adding of this amount of residential in the park, we wanted to make it so that all of the transit areas would be in 3 spaces that we strategically located, so that it's all within walking distance from almost all of the apartments and all of the commercial office buildings. So this is one of the 3 hubs that we plan on implementing as part of the master plan. And here we'll have a space for 1 or 2 buses, and they can do some car share. We'll have obviously bikes, and we have an e-bike program, and it's meant to have both an enclosed space and an outdoor space to take advantage of the weather, or if inclement weather, it'll be air conditioned, it will be heated. There'll be some amenities inside the space. There'll be restrooms inside the space, and maybe vending machines and things that people can use while they're waiting for the bus. And so now the buses will come, and they'll go to only 3 stops, and hopefully will become much more user friendly and much more efficient, which will hopefully increase our ridership as we continue to develop.
Yeah, and you touched on my next question, by the way, thank you. You touched on my next question dealing with restrooms. What principles are we using for the parks, or that you're using, whether you have a restroom or not have a restroom in a park?
In most cases for these urban parks, it'd be really rare that we would do a restroom. Most of the people that will be using these parks will be people that live right adjacent to the parks. And where we have transit facilities, there'll be a restroom in the transit hub. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then the last question is the senior housing. Are you guys, as we look at, and this is, is it just a regular housing, or is it can be housing where they can't have animals or can have animals? So I'm figuring out what kind of animals will be involved around this park is really where I'm headed.
Right. I am not sure of what Belmont Village's rules are around pets. It is restricted senior housing. It's an assisted living. It starts with independent, it goes to assisted living and then memory care.
Okay.
And so there's 180 units and I don't know their pet policy.
No, that's helpful.
But I do believe the apartments will have pets. I'm not sure of their exact pet policy, but I do believe they'll have dogs and cats, but nothing bigger than that.
Cool. Thank you.
No wild animals.
Commissioner Osland?
Thank you, Chair Keniston Lee. Thank you, guys. Great presentation. I had a question looking at slide, I think it's slide 13. It's the park context slide. Let's see. We could look at this one.
Okay.
So at the top right where it's number 1, and that's the park, correct?
Correct.
And then there's a square to the left of it. Is that the transit center?
No, the transit center sits here on the west side of the park.
Okay, so it's
That's
in,
that square that you're seeing here, that is an open courtyard for the apartment project. So they'll have an open courtyard, private courtyard for the people that live in that community.
okay, all right. Then I wanted to find out how big the transit center is going to be. Do we have any idea?
I do not remember the square footage of the enclosed space and including the, the outdoor covered area. I can get back to you on that, but I don't recall what the square footages are. They're not huge.
Okay, and it's a 2-acre park is what we had
I believe it's 2 acres.
been
yes.
presented. And so will the transit center be taking up part of that real estate of the 2 acres?
I'm not sure. I have to go back and check. It might be it might take up a small part of it, but I don't remember how we did the math on that. I'd have to check.
Okay, yeah, I'd be curious about that. Another question I had was about, there are currently redwood trees on the lot.
Mhm.
I'm curious, are we planning on preserving those?
No, as part of, when related to their project, those trees will come down. And part of the reason for that is I don't know if you recall, several years ago, we did a master plan for Bollinger. When we did the Bollinger widening, we actually came up with a master plan for planting for Bollinger so that over time, the street, we can reduce kind of the scale of the street. So the master plan includes planting London plane trees all along the edges of there and white roses. And so the redwoods don't go along with that master plan. So and they're not that big of redwoods, but so those will come out and we'll plant the new London plane trees and the new white roses so that you'll have this constant planting scheme that goes down Bollinger to create this great boulevard.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. And there's also trees on the other side of that lot. And I don't know what kind of trees they are, but they're not redwoods.
No.
Are we planning on keeping those?
No, in order to make room for the grading and the reconfiguration, those trees will have to come out as well. And then all of the trees being planted are being planted based on our design guidelines that was part of City Walk approval process.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Mitra?
Hey, Jerry and David, that was a great presentation. I mean, this is the second time I'm listening to this, but it's great. One quick question, because the first time I think we did not hear about motion sensing lighting. I think this is the first time I'm hearing that one. Is that all the lighting will be motion sensing or only few of them? Because I can imagine if all the lights are, then it'll be completely dark if there is nobody there.
Right. I can speak to that.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that lighting in the last 10 years is completely revolutionized, and you can do so many things previously were so expensive with controls, and you can even park managers can turn on and off park lights with their iPhone now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually that you would have a minimum level. So you'd have, let's say that lighting is 100% and it's bright, or it's giving you 1 foot candle or whatever is required for a walkway. You'd be down at 20% from until 10 o'clock at night when it goes off. And then it just goes up to whatever level we need.
Okay.
So there would be a glow usually, and there would be some light. It's just very minimal.
Very minimum. When nobody's there, there will be very minimum. But when people walking there,
When people walk in, we have projects that we've done. They're all commercial projects. We're going to start construction on a new park in San Francisco that is implementing this.
Mm-hmm.
So when people walk in, it triggers, and then it like glows on, basically.
Okay.
And I want to say 2 things. It's one thing, it's saving energy. It's also not creating light pollution
Mhm.
unnecessarily. But also it's a psychological thing. It's like it's welcoming you to the park in a way. And we're interested in as well with like public art, that you would walk into a space and like a sculpture might just light up independently.
Okay.
And to me, it's more about a psychological connection that we have with our public spaces that is amplified at night by using clever lighting controls.
And some of the new Cal Green codes that come in place require you to not have your lights all on at 100% all the time, like in commercial spaces in our office buildings, in our parking structures. They're required to go to dim to 50%. And then as you walk through the parking structures, it lights up that zone and as you walk through it. So that's kind of some of the new codes that are requiring that as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Student Commissioner Gupta.
Thank you for the presentation. It was a great presentation. You mentioned that the trees that are already existing in that area, I think you brought it up. You said that they'll be taken out. So I was wondering, where would those go? Would those kind of just be disposed of? And if so, what would their environmental impact be? Because I'm assuming that there's a lot of trees over there.
Well, for the redwood trees, there are we do have a vendor that we use sometimes that he can take those and rework those and repurpose them for furniture and things like that and reuse them. Some trees that are there are not in good health and will just be, disposed of. And then generally when we coming in as part of the tree ordinance, we have to plant and replace those trees on site or off site, but we're having many more trees being placed in the park and on the developments than exists there today, significantly more.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I have one question for now. I have a couple questions that are better left for later. I'll give those to you later. But my question is regarding the transition from the bike path to the sidewalk. I'm looking at 8.1 point A. I believe the bike path is 8 feet. Is that correct? And then it kind of circles around and seamlessly, it appears, transitions into the sidewalk.
Mhm.
How wide is the sidewalk and how do we anticipate walking folks, pedestrians navigating bikes in that area?
So the 60-foot Parkway Green, which is our linear greens that go all the way around our neighborhoods that connects City Walk and to it's part of the walking district and it connects everything. So that's where that 8-foot path is. And then as you come around the park, you now are part of kind of a more urban and city sidewalk. So the sidewalk it will come to along front of the transit center will be a little wider because it's kind of part of that transit center. But as you wrap yourself around and go on the south side of the park, it's just a standard 6-foot sidewalk on that side. But if they choose to get to the Iron Horse Trail, they can also take this wider path that is between the residential building and the park, which is looks like 15 feet that they can take their path up that direction. And then there's sidewalks adjacent to the residential on the left. There's a sidewalk on the far north side of the Belmont Village and also on the south side of Belmont Village that take you to a crosswalk that leads you to the Iron Horse Trail.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? No. Okay. All right. Then we're going to go to public comment. I know I have one comment card for this item. Taiwanza Country. Do we have any online? Just so I'm heads up. No. Okay.
No one has their hand raised at this
Okay.
time.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to speak very quickly because I have a lot of things I want to share with you. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Engen. I know that he had told us last time that this is a project, probably a centerpiece before he retires. And so I'm really, really appreciative of his kindness and graciousness for gifting our city with such wonderful park. Secondly, I want to give my compliments to the designer, Mr. Fletcher, or the studio. It's a beautiful design and it is such an outstanding concept. The concept of, organic necklace coming from crystal, so beautiful. So now I want to help you see where I'm coming from as a resident, a victim, and also as a housekeeper. So because these are so precious and wonderful, and the fact that it is going to be a private property, but allowing the public, which is you, to invite public users into this private space, it's inevitable that there is going to be legal issues. And I'm speaking from my victim and housekeeping hats. When I bought in the city of San Ramon, I thought I bought in a place that I can live like a resort type of housing, because the pool next to me is gorgeous and beautiful. And I was told in my CCNRs that it is a private community. Lo and behold, a few months into my purchase of my home, I was woken up at 2 a.m. in the morning because there are some noises. And then I saw people making out in a private spa area. I addressed my concerns, and then I found out that in a private, especially, specifically designated private and gated community, there are some limitations to our PD in terms of what they can enforce and what they cannot do. And also, I have a panel of board that was still a mixture of developer and homeowners. And so their willingness and their understanding of enforcement on the CCNR's language were very, very diverse. So with that, I want you to apply under this project. I want to protect Mr. Ingen's legacy. For his benefacting gift, we shouldn't let him be smeared or, later be blamed for any mishap that you can possibly imagine with how I can imagine that can take place there. So I know my time is out. So I'm going to leave you with all those comments to imagine, and I would recommend you highly to forward this to Mr. License for legal examination to make sure that there is no conflict and we shouldn't put our PD and their future residents in jeopardy. Thank you.
Okay, just checking one more time. Any other public comments?
There's none. No one has their
Alright.
hand raised.
We're going to go to commissioner comments, and we're going to start if they would like to get us kicked off here with the facilities committee. Commissioner Mitra, would you like to start?
No, I don't.
You're good. Okay. Anybody else on the committee that?
Sure, I will.
Commissioner Osland.
Yeah, so we did talk about dogs, and I think Commissioner Breed was alluding to maybe some animals. And I didn't really see in the presentation that we received any mention about the perhaps dog area or dog bag stations, perhaps a water area for them to drink from. So I was wondering, is that part of the plan? Because I felt that was fairly important for the residents. At least we're not sure if the senior housing will be able to have animals, but I'm sure people in the apartments will. So I wanted to just comment on that because I felt that was something that seemed fairly important in our discussion. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was the Wi-Fi, and I know that was in the notes in our report, but maybe making sure that there are areas for that. I really love how you did listen to us and our discussion. I love the low lighting, and that sounds beautiful the way it was described. So overall, I think that my impression from our meeting at the end of October when the facilities committee met was that this looks like an incredible, beautiful park, and with a lot of beautiful amenities for the people that are going to be living around the area and those that will be using the transit center. So I have some other comments, but I just wanted to, from our meeting and our discussion, thank you for listening to us and for integrating some of these ideas, but I do want to hear more about the dogs.
Why don't we go ahead and have you transition to your comments as well?
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. And I think for me, one of the concerns I have is the transit village and maybe taking up too much real estate from the park. So that was why I was asking about the size of it. So would like to get that information. Signage, the Iron Horse Trail. Jerry did mention a little bit that there is going to be a pathway. I know that there's a current pathway that's there. Are there going to be two entrances to Iron Horse? Or is everyone going to be directed to go up Bollinger to come into this area? So I guess that's kind of a
You guys
question.
can come up and answer if you
Yeah.
know the answer.
Because I know currently there's one that I saw when I've
There,
explored the area.
right, there's two sidewalk connections. So as you go up either side of Belmont Village, so the Belmont Village is directly due east of this park, top of the page north.
Mhm.
And there is a crosswalk that takes you across the Bishop Branch East entry that takes you to the BR1 office buildings. There's a crosswalk there that takes you to a sidewalk that leads over to where the other crosswalk is on the far south side, because there's a grade kind of differential, and the pedestrian overcrossing
Mhm.
comes down and lands just basically right near where the first crosswalk is, but then they have to still make up grade to come down.
Okay.
And so the actual way to get to Iron Horse Trail will be on this sidewalk crossing that is on this south side of Belmont Village. On the right-hand side of this plan is almost in line with this right-hand sidewalk. So this sidewalk corner here,
Mhm.
you cross the street, this raised table that David talked about is the crosswalk for the seniors to come across. And then there's a crosswalk a sidewalk goes along this edge, along Belmont Village. And when you get to the Iron Horse Trail, you go right across and connect with Iron Horse Trail.
Okay, and will there be signage there?
We'll have signage that leads you as part of the walking district.
Mhm.
We're working with everyone in the
Great.
walking district committees to come up with the types of signage that would be kind of throughout and guide people to the district and to the Iron Horse Trail.
Great, great. And I'm not sure if the other commissioners are aware of the orientation of the buildings, but the back side of the apartment building will be on Bollinger, correct?
There's not really a back, because the way that we designed and related design that building is it's four-sided architecture. So there's really no back and front, because you have units that land the ground on all four sides that
Okay.
face it. And so on the side that's off of Bollinger,
Mhm.
there's the garage, kind of the
Okay.
public garage entry, and where you come in is if you're new or you're looking there, and that's where the leasing office is. But the people that will actually live there, there's another garage entry off the Bishop Branch East entry,
Okay.
where most of the residents will go in and out of
Okay.
there. So and you don't see the garage because it's surrounded by the units, and so
Mhm.
it's hidden. So you've got a beautiful facade that sits on Bollinger, and a
Mhm.
beautiful facade that's on all four sides.
Okay, okay, great. And I think the other thing that in my, studying all these documents and, hearing your presentations, is that the park is actually set back. You're not going to see it probably from Bollinger. Is that correct?
You will not see it from Bollinger because it's behind the apartment building.
Mhm.
And so you won't have a clear view. There'll be a couple of peekaboo views as you're going eastbound on Bollinger.
Mhm.
As you approach the intersection of the Camino Ramon and Bollinger intersection, which is where you can turn right. And that's the street that runs in front of the park here, is that entry off of Camino Ramon. And so you can maybe get a peekaboo view, but really it's not visible from Bollinger in a
Okay.
meaningful way.
But you wouldn't know it's there unless there's some signage directing you that
Right.
way. I think that was really my comments. I do like it a lot, and thank you for your creativity. I'm sad to remove those trees, but I guess we have to do what we have to do. So thank you.
Commissioner Ellicott Pesek?
Thank you. Can you bring this park to my neighborhood? This is really, really wonderful, and I really appreciate incorporating some of the amenities, the natural aspect to it, the green aspect, both in all senses of the word, I guess. Really, really like the lighting concept and hope we can adopt that in a lot of places. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. Water stations, one of my favorite things to talk about. So thank you for including that. I think we just need to be thinking forward to how we can have a better environmental impact, and, the shade structures with the heat the way it is in the summertime, really trying to make this a space that can be used all year.
And I apologize if this is a question that's been addressed in prior meetings, but I'm curious, not suggesting it's a problem, but there's a lot of foot traffic between to and from Cal High, where students walk the Iron Horse Trail to get to school from there, which could be an opportunity in terms of the transit center, I think, as well. I'm just curious, has that been something you've thought about in terms of people cutting off the Iron Horse Trail, students maybe after school or whatever it is coming through there? And, you know, that could become an attractive place for students, which is a good thing. But I just wanted to see if you guys had thought about it, or if it, maybe I'm wrong in the spacing that it would be something, but I can imagine it being an attraction either for a walk through or for a space to hang out.
Well, we definitely think that it will, you know, as part of the walking district connection, it will definitely be a way. Some people would rather walk over, you know, Bollinger over the pedestrian, but if they're wanting to, you know, if they're coming up the Iron Horse Trail and they want to go west instead of going to the intersection, this would be a much more beautiful connection to come down and make their way down to, you know, cross if they want to go to City Center, for instance. It's a much better connection. So, you know, we're trying to make it so it's welcoming for people that do want to come off Iron Horse Trail and get here and discover the park and maybe rest here, or, you know, as a transition space before they go on to City Center. So
I just think that's
Welcome
something
that.
long-term in terms of the best neighbor concept. You know, we deal with, you know, parking and traffic around Cal High and the neighborhoods and the high schools in general. It may be something as we get down the line, how to make sure we communicate with the high school to make sure our students are being good neighbors as they access it, and, you know, including them in the concept and wanting them to take good care of it as well. And not, you know, dropping trash as they walk to City Center. Fantastic. Well done. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Well, thank you both for an excellent presentation, because I wasn't on the facilities and got in on all the little details, and then trying to figure this out on my own and everything. It was a little confusing, but you did an excellent job of explaining it and how it works. And I really like the idea of what the amenities that you have done. I too, of course, like trees, but I understand that you have to do what you have to do. But it's going to be much more, you know, exciting when you see it done. But you really explained everything, and I understand it now really, and appreciate it, and I'm really in favor of it. So thank you for explaining it, and I then can appreciate it much better. So thank you both.
great. Thank you.
Commissioner Breed.
Thanks. Hey, I'm gonna have, first of all, thank you guys for your presentation. And I was thinking about some of our strategies about inclusiveness and connectivity, and you guys incorporated that, which is really important. I'm gonna kind of give you kind of a different approach. Let me give you, before I give you my feedback, let me think how I'm thinking about it. The reason why I asked you questions before, who are the main users of the park, right? And for me, it's hard to get feedback because I'm not really sure who's going to be the user and what they look like. It's sort of like, who's our customer of the park, and what are some of the guardrails. And for me, I think one of the main users of this park will be the people using the transit center. And that's why I really don't understand as much as I should on the transit center, but I'm going to give you feedback that the transit center will probably be used a lot. Our hope is used a lot by all our citizens, not the people living around there. So that's where that feedback's coming. So I can break feedback with the transit center and feedback with the park in general, because I think it looks great as is. But as I'm trying to think about what's the future, and we try and look around the corner, you know, we have electric bikes. We want people out of their cars. My personal opinion is I think the transit center should have more seating. I think we should probably find a way to have that be more inviting as we think about people sitting there. We want, and do we have enough bike storage? I was trying to look at the picture, and as we look at, I saw a couple bike racks, but how do we enable more bike storage? And then I think you mentioned it, Mr. Hangen, but you know, people have to charge their bikes. Do we have a place to charge the bikes and charging station? My point is, how do we make that transit center more inviting to get people out of their car? And is there enough space for them to sit and wait? And I saw that they give you feedback on Wi-Fi, but for me, I would blow some of that grass out. We have plenty of grass in the city, but I'd move some of that grass out and make more seating with some really cool lighting, so they could sit and do work. And then also you're gonna have a lot of seniors there that want to sit and socialize. I'm just not sure we have enough seating to do that. And then the last thing around the transit center, you can tell I'm kind of stuck on the transit center, but because we want to get people out of their cars, right? We need to make it more inviting. Is how do we have enough lighting to make sure it's safe, right? I get the whole lighting going on and off, but do we have enough security lighting? So like this time of year that we're dealing with right now, do people feel secure? Do they want to stay? They feel comfortable? Is it inviting? Do they want to tell their neighbors, hey, that transit center at BR1 is amazing, try and use it. So I would really push, and once again, it's your, you guys are doing it and I appreciate it, but it's just my feedback on how do we get people out of their cars and how do we make a transit center more inviting? And this is one transit center that we could really kind of do differently, to think it differently to get people out of the cars. So it's, once again, your call. And I appreciate you letting me give you feedback on it. The second feedback I would have is the park itself. It's kind of little things, but could you put mileage markers? So if you have a senior, if one of the main users is seniors, they like to walk, could we, maybe they want to track mileage. So we put a mileage marker around the park for them. And then the other thing is I like the lighting you said as they move at night. Is there lighting for them to walk at nighttime, right? So, and then, is it safe? Do they feel safe using a park? Which I don't think that's a big issue. So, and the last thing I said is just because I've been to a lot of parks and we have a lot where our seniors are, there's a lot of sitting, a lot of social and gathering. And I looked at, I forget what the spot was, but is there enough is there enough seating, enough benches for them to sit and gather and socialize outside when the weather's good? So just something to think about. So design's great. It's just my feedback, but we have a prime opportunity to take a transit center, make it a lot more inviting to get more citizens out of the car. And how do we make them stay and feel really comfortable and wanted, whether it's food or whatever? But that's just my push a little bit. We have plenty of grass in the city. But how do we push that out a little bit more? So just a thought on the transit center. But once again, it looks amazing, right? It's just, I'm trying to look around the corner and how we get more people out of the car. So thanks.
Commissioner Mitra?
Yeah, just one thing. So first of all, I would like to appreciate and thank you because a lot of feedbacks that we were given in the facility meeting have been incorporated. So that's I just wanted to do that. It's a out of context question. Do we have a timeline on this?
We do actually. So we're anticipating Belmont Village should be built around the middle to the third quarter of 25. And I believe related is around the end of 25. And so we're going to work together with them. They're using that particular lot for logistics and laydown yards during the construction for both of the buildings. So as soon as related gets far enough along out of the ground, we'll take that back and start building a park so that when the apartment building opens, the park will be done. So Belmont will be open slightly, maybe 6 months or so before the park is done. And then when related is about 6 months behind, and then we'll open the park. So it'll kind of almost happen all simultaneously.
So by end of 25.
Yeah, it's roughly the end of 25, early 26.
Second half of 25, 26. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else before I take the reins? Okay, here we go.
Hold on.
No. No, honestly, I agree. A lot of thought has been put into this design and I do like the design. And I always appreciate that Sunset is a collaborator with us on many levels. And in this regard, you guys are receptive to our feedback and we appreciate the opportunity. My concern is a little bit about process. So I wanted to just explore that a little bit and ask a few questions and just have us all be on the same page, because this is one of 7 total parks in the City Walk area that we're going to be working together on. And so I think we need to be clear on the process. For the record and for the larger commission, I was with my fellow commissioners on the facilities committee. Prior to the meeting, we were given an agenda. There was no documentation. There was no plan attached to it. And that concerned me because I wanted to be as useful and helpful in the process as possible. And to Jerry's credit, he was totally receptive to the fact that I said, I would have liked to have had that documentation to make our discussion richer. Okay. But if I'm being completely honest, it was a bit of a red flag in terms of wanting to take a closer look at the process moving forward and the parks that we're going to design. Fortunately, we got pretty lucky, and I'm sure the future work will be stellar as well, that you guys have put a lot of thought into this, and you can tell from the commissioner feedback, we're liking what we see, right? But I feel it's important to remind everybody, including the public, sort of what's gotten us to this point in terms of this concept of privately owned and publicly accessible. That is not a free thing. And Kathy, you will confirm, I'm sure, that that represents a considerable amount of park credit to Sunset, and that it really represents public dollars. So it's not like a purely altruistic thing that's happening here. So we have granted considerable park credit for the building of these parks. Is that not true?
For the property.
For the property, right? Yeah. So the reason I want to raise that to everybody's attention is because I feel it heightens our sense of responsibility and that we have to make sure that these parks are what the community needs and what we want to develop. I think anytime we're dealing with public dollars, and really in the last analysis, that's what we're looking at. It's a huge responsibility. I also want to ask you, Kathy, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what our role is, because you're very clear in the staff report that we have neither disapproval or approval rights with regard to this, right? And you guys want to be collaborative with us, and I think that's great. But what specifically do the documents say, like the development agreement, with regard to our role? And at what point in the design process is this to be brought before us?
It is not. You are not called out in the development agreement
Okay.
as the Parks Commission, to my knowledge. And what occurred is through the public hearing process that we went through as City Walk was developed, that it was discussed, this kind of concept. And Bishop Ranch very graciously agreed that, of course, they would want to get feedback from the Parks Commission as they went through the development of these parks, to make sure that it's in line with the master plan, that it's in line with the community needs at the time. As this is going to stretch over many years, things will change. And in order to stay in tune with what the community needs are at the time, there's an essential component of communication and feedback. But in the formal approval range, that is not called out in the development agreement. It does call out the Parks and Community Services Department and a collaborative approach to allowing us to plan programs and events there, and to make sure that the park designs are meeting the needs of the community. But it's just not a formal, as you're used to in all our other parks, a yes or a no or a we want this.
And does the city council have any role in reviewing this at all?
I don't believe so, but I can double check with that. I believe that this would just go through the Planning Commission as part of that zoning ordinance, maybe, and the final piece of that map. But I could confirm that for sure. I believe that's the process that would go. So if you had feedback, then assumedly, as you've got a planning commissioner in the audience, they would hear it and potentially be able to comment on it if it was something you felt very strongly about.
I wanted to go through this exercise a little bit because I feel like we need to be truly active participants in this process. And I think to some extent we're demonstrating that, but I feel like I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that. And lastly, I wanted to ask an active question about the future process for all the other parks, because we're sort of blazing trails here. And even for us, this concept of, we haven't done a lot of the privately owned public parks before. So this is a really critical juncture for the parks function and for housing development for us. And so can you elaborate, I guess both of you collectively maybe, what will be the process moving forward with regard to design for future parks? At what point can we expect to hear from you guys?
Well, I think as we did here, we would do it very early on at the concept stage to get feedback, so that as we develop, we can take all the feedback like we have done here and then develop those designs around that feedback. And then as we go forward and go to the Planning Commission, they'll see what we've done and around that. And again, we surprised you at the first one without having it, but we will in the future make sure that our concept designs are part of the agenda packet. So you have time to review them and you have, can put more meaningful thought to, things that you were thinking about or what we may have missed in our concept as we were thinking for each park.
And so you mentioned the planning commission. I'm a little sleep deprived tonight, but for obvious reasons, but does the design go back to the planning commission?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I think
I
it
only picked up
does.
on it because you mentioned.
Yeah, I
planning.
think it does, but I'd have to go back and double check.
Okay.
That's something we can come back to you with. As I mentioned, I'm not 100% clear on that process either. And so we can get that clarified and include that in the rec report next time for you.
And as we talked about, we just are very invested in our parks, and this comes from a place of wanting to be useful and wanting to make it work for us. And if it works for us, it's going to work for you guys. So that's the point. So I think you had mentioned in the facilities meeting that, wow, this was a really thoughtful discussion and you guys really dig in or something. I forget exactly what you said. So that's really important to us. And then the other, on a lighter note, is with regard to park naming. I know you mentioned that a little bit, Jerry. I'd love to see how, I realize it's a private park, but how we could engage the community in ideas. We have an internal process of how we do that for public parks, but it would be neat to kind of get some feedback from the community, and maybe almost they would kind of vet things. You know what I mean? It would be like sort of incorporating and enveloping that into the San Ramon community by engaging them in that way. So that could be something, if you could think of a way to really communicate it and it wouldn't be, too burdensome to think about. I think that was it. I just want to impress upon everybody the responsibility that I know you all feel. And we're blazing new trails here in the city core. And so we need to take that seriously. And I know you do. Okay. Oh, Student Commissioner Gupta.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you already mentioned this, but I just wanted to ask about the play area's close proximity to the Belmont Village Senior Living Center. And I just wanted to ask if you guys are anticipating any sort of like noise conflict or any sort of other conflict, just because, I have a little sister and she's pretty noisy. So I just want to make sure that if there's, 50 of her running around in the play area, that's not going to be an issue for the senior centers who obviously want their peace and quiet.
Right. Yeah. No, we feel that this park area is going to be a little more passive. It's not going to have, a lot of active, noise causing kind of activity other than their voices, which is pretty hard to mitigate. But the way that the Belmont Village is oriented, actually their outdoor amenity space faces the park. So kind of all the activities that they're going to do in the senior center is kind of right across the street. So it kind of all blends together and works together in that regard. And it's also, as David mentioned, we picked this area because it's close proximity to the apartments, which are going to be probably the majority of the people that use it. And then the one thing that's David pointed out, there's a grove of trees, which is where we're going to probably have picnic benches and things of that nature for the seniors to can sit under the trees and play checkers or chess or whatever they want to do. So yeah, we've thought about that and making sure that that the kinds of, artful play structures or whatever we do isn't something that's going to be, making noise.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ellicott-Pesic.
Well, I think you may be on it, but that was one of the things I'd been thinking about as well when we talked about the seating for the seniors and others. One of the things I love at Santana Row and in Europe, because they're kind of the same, is the tables where you have the chess and checkers out and you have people around, and then you have a mixture of children and seniors interacting in that way. And so it sounds like you guys are talking about ways to incorporate the different ages and draw them
See, this is
together.
a multi-generational kind of space because you're going to have people using it from the transit center. You're going to have people from the BR1 office building that want to come out and have lunch here or relax here. You have people that live in the apartments that will come here. So it'll be definitely multi-generational. I think one of the things I didn't get a chance to respond to Commissioner Breed about the transit center, because this wasn't really about the transit center. And so I didn't bring forward, we haven't embarked on the design process, but we have had some internal review and design effort, and the transit hubs will have a lot of seating, both indoor and outdoor. It will have a lot of amenities. It will have covered space. It will have, landscaped areas. So there'll be a lot of seating. There'll be places for electric bikes and places for charging your phone and all of that, because it's not only got to serve, it's got to serve for all those people using that transit facility. So there'll be plenty of that for that. And we'll get more into that as we go to bring forward the transit hubs. You'll start to see the kinds of amenities and the size of the space, because it's not just the enclosed space. It's also the covered area that you can see on this rendering that's got a covered outdoor area. And then there's an uncovered outdoor area, so that they have a variety of types of environments that they can inhabit for that area.
Yeah, thanks.
And then one other thing I wanted to mention that I think was really important is that when we did City Walk, being it's a much more urban environment, but it was really important to us that we made sure all these neighborhood parks were at grade. In a lot of urban places, sometimes the park can be sitting on top of a parking structure. For us, because as you noticed, when you look at these, very large trees, we wanted to be on grade so that the trees can grow large. And when we've seen some of these parks around in Europe and around the world, you see some of the most beautiful parks are just beautifully landscaped lawns with trees where people sit under them with blankets and enjoy the space and get the respite from the more urban environment. And so that's kind of a timeless element that's really important to us.
Can I ask Kathy, thank you for that, Jerry. Can I ask, I'm just thinking about a previous thing. Can you come back to us with the, as you find out sort of more information about process, whether it goes to planning or whatever, can you share that with us?
Yeah, I'm happy to put it in the rec report next time.
That'd be great. Yeah. And whatever the documentation says or whatever you think would answer those questions, that'd be great. All right. Anybody else have anything, questions, comments for the good of the order? All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to item 8.2, Doherty Station Community Arts Center proposed program plan with Adam Chow. Thanks for your patience, Adam.
Oh,
that was
thank you for having me here this evening. All right. Well, good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having me here this evening. We're going to talk about the Doherty Station proposed program plan as we transition it into an art center. And so you'll notice that I will use Doherty Station Art Center frequently in my discussion. It is a working title. It is not an official title yet. So I want to get my disclaimer out there first and foremost. So, but we're very excited to be able to talk about the art center being transformed from the Doherty Station Community Center and the progress that we are going to have. So first and foremost, the Doherty Station Community Center was identified in the master plan that it was being underutilized, and we should be able to look at reusing some of the spaces to be able to make it a center and highlight its role in the arts and culture that we have within that center. So the renovations that we are undergoing right now have been reviewed and have been looked at, and they really came from this community art survey that we kind of started off with. And so that was the first step in the process. We really read from the master plan. We move forward with the community art survey, and we asked the community what it is that they want within an art center to make it that hub that we were directed in the master plan. So we had 477 responses from a variety of people in the community: artists, teachers, makers, and all those different sorts of people and arts patrons that give us that feedback that we needed. And with that feedback, we really took it and really kind of figured out that there was several themes that were really integrated into that. So first, we wanted to make sure that Doherty Station Community Center was really that hub for us for creativity and expression, and inspiring artists to be able to be excited about art and bring in new artists to be able to have a place in a center of their own. The four topics that we really heard from within that survey was really making sure that art programs were affordable for teachers to be able to teach and for students to be able to benefit from them as well. So that's one thing that we've outlined within the program plan. Another is also looking at offering more arts classes and programs, including definitely more cultural programs, ceramics and sculpture, which was very high on the survey for us, music, musical theater, photography, dance, and crafts programs. In addition to that, another theme that we saw was offering rental artist studios spaces for artists to be able to create. And so these are private studios for artists to be able to rent and have some space for themselves. And then also provide additional opportunities for artists to perform, exhibit, and sell goods. And so we really took these goals for the Doherty Station Arts Center, really was able to develop the program plan based off of these ideas right here. So as the community center is going to be renovated and it's going to be started very shortly here, hopefully, there are going to be some new program spaces. There's been some changing around the configuration, and I believe you've all walked through a couple of times actually to be able to see the changes with that. And so we're excited to have those new spaces and the expanded spaces specifically just for arts. Some of the ideas in regards to programs that we are looking at to have within the facility, some of our traditional programs that we have had in the past, continuing those and expanding some of those, but also adding programs that we haven't had and we have not been able to offer previously, where we can be able to offer larger dance programs and expand our dance program at the center with a larger dance studio, being a more focused and more concentrated on some programs that we need to bring back, such as our ceramics and sculpting and pottery programs. We have the facilities, we just haven't had an instructor. So being more intentional in regards to what programs we are going to be offering within the facility with the amenities that we have. And also looking at some new programs that we could be able to offer, looking at fiber arts, photography, digital arts, and literary arts that we don't currently have offering right now. So this is what we've heard from the community. This is what we've heard from discussions that we have learned. And so we want to make sure that we offer a good variety of programs for the community within this center. And so our art programs, and so we'll kind of run down how we're going to offer the arts programs. And so traditionally we follow through with a contract class program. That is how the majority of our programs are offered through the Parks Community Services Department, whether it's a soccer class or whether it's a drawing class or a dance program. Traditionally they're 1 day a week, for an hour or so for a certain number of weeks, and you pay a set fee. It's a traditional way we've done things, and it works very well for us. And so we'll continue to be able to offer those contract classes as they're currently being offered. But we also wanted to look at new ways of being able to offer arts programs and to different audiences and make sure that we're not reaching just the standard way that we've always done things. We're also looking at new ways to be able to approach arts and make it approachable and make it so that way people can be able to feel like they're a part of it on their schedule. And I mean, we all know how busy people are in this community and how scheduling can be. We want to make sure that we have those opportunities for our community. So we're looking at offering drop-in classes. And so that's really providing a really flexible schedule for students to be able to attend art programs. And this could be a variety of different mediums. And so I got some examples here. We talked about ceramics and pottery a lot, but, without getting locked into the regular, every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. It can be, I can't make this Tuesday, or, I'm out of town because I'm traveling, but I still want to be able to continue and have opportunities to be able to take classes with an instructor that could be able to help me progress in my skill. And so this is what these classes are really for. I'm looking at drop-in passes similar to what we have at the senior center. So there is a small fee that will be involved in that as well. And these classes, we're really going to be focusing on individual progress, as opposed to a lot of our contract classes, which are week to week to week, which are really skill development. So it's like you're building on week 1 to week 2, week 3, week 4, within that syllabus and that instructor, that's the plan that the instructor has for instruction. These drop-in classes really will focus more so on that individual of, I may be working on this one project, and the instructor walks around and says, here's a great way you might be able to think about this, or, think about this in the future. Some real great opportunities for individual skill development. So that's what we're looking at for drop-in programs in a number of different ways to be able to provide easier access in a more flexible manner. Also looking at offering open art studio time as well. And so this would be basically a time for artists to be able to get together. There would be no instructor available, but it's really just opening the space and opening the room for artists to be able to congregate, converge, socialize, support, help each other out. I think it's really important for us to be able to create an artist community. And so this is really one of the big pieces to be able to create that artist community where artists really feel like they have a space where they belong. They have people that they can be able to talk with. They have people they can be able to connect with. And that's really going to be a real big component of the art center that we're going to be doing. It'll be a low cost for space. Artists would be bringing in their own materials because we wouldn't be necessarily providing materials, but it's really that kind of collaborative, that fun, that social aspect that artists really crave. And that's what we have heard as well. So, and some of the mediums that we're looking at are watercolor, acrylics, oil painting, some traditional sorts of sense and opportunities, but we are open to be able to offer different types of art studios as people are interested. And the last thing we're looking at in regards to art programs as well is kind of those introductory things. How do we get people to try new things? Low cost and free classes and workshops is a great opportunity for somebody who may feel daunted and be able to sign up for a full class of 10 weeks. Like, I'm not sure if I'm really going to like that. I'm not really sure if I'm going to enjoy this chess, or excuse me, the ceramics class, or if I'm going to really enjoy oil painting. And it's also a big investment, right? With the number of supplies and those sorts of things. So we're looking at different opportunities to provide introductory classes for new students, particularly in a variety of themes and mediums. So these low cost classes and free workshops, we'll be offering them in a different variety of times. We'll be working with our artists, we'll be working with our instructors. And one of the suggestions from the teen council is also asking student artists to be able to help teach them these classes and volunteer, which I thought was a fantastic suggestion. So we were taking that, adding that to the list as well. So we have a great variety of things that we've come up with, but we're always open to providing other opportunities as a community as interested. And I think this will be a very popular opportunity for people to be able to try new things. And so we will probably see obviously a high demand in this. And these will definitely be subsidized by the department, but we will be having some other revenue generating opportunities within the Art Center as well, which I'll talk about in a bit. In addition to the programs, we're also looking at hosting events. And I think hosting events is really one of the pieces that a lot of people enjoy. We have the theater within the Art Center. We also have a lot of spaces for performances and exhibits and all sorts of different sorts of things. So we really want to be able to provide those opportunities for our community, particularly in performing arts with our theater spaces and with a larger lobby that's a little more open. We really want to try and engage those spaces to make it feel like the building's alive, not just everybody's in a specific room doing their one thing, but really trying to bring the synergy in the center where there may be an art class upstairs and maybe an open mic downstairs, or some things where we can be able to cross within our different activities that are happening within the building. So with performing arts, looking at a couple different opportunities, open mics are great opportunities for the community to be able to, sing, read poetry, be able to try something new in a supportive environment. Looking also at monthly community performances, we hear often from community groups that they're looking for a place to be able to perform in front of an audience. And I get requests on a regular basis. We've seen it through a number of our surveys as well, that community groups are just looking for that space. And we do have that space. And so we want to utilize that space and provide that for our community as well. A community theater for youth and adults, which we haven't had in a while. We do have theater programs. But I know that it's been something that we haven't had in a few years in regards to a theater program in-house. So we're looking at be able to bring something along those lines back. Art gallery receptions. We do have an art gallery within the Art Center, and that will be expanded. And so we're going to continue using that art gallery space and be able to recognize the artists and the exhibits and really make that space feel alive and recognize what the artists have accomplished. One of the things that we heard also in our survey as well is that artists are really looking for an opportunity to be able to sell and exhibit. Selling artwork, selling goods for artists is really important for them to be able to obviously make a living wage. So we want to be able to provide opportunities to be able to do that. So hosting an art expo, whether it's once or twice a year, for artists to be able to come, be able to display, showcase what it is that their artwork, and be able to sell their artwork. So we're looking at that as well. Open studios. We will have some artist studios within the space. And so I'll talk about that in just a bit, but just opportunities for people to be engaged with artists that are working on a regular basis, seeing what their process is, learning, and just really engaging with the entire facility of what we have. And then also looking at a speaker series as well, providing opportunities for our community to be able to learn from experts and hear stories and be able to be culturally engaged in that area as well. So looking at some of those things. So events is definitely a big part of what we're doing in addition to the classes to make sure that we are using the space and providing opportunities for our community to be engaged. I had previously mentioned about the artist studios. And so one of the things that we are going to be doing is providing opportunities for artists to be able to have a space that they can be able to use, be able to rent, and be able to provide, be able to create their own artwork. And so these are popular in a number of different spaces. And this is something that we heard from our artists that they're very interested in doing. So looking at creating 6 private artist studios, they're about 100 square feet, about 10 by 10 in size. And we had sent out a survey recently, actually just a couple of months ago, to our artist list, asking about the artist studios again, just kind of confirming that this is something that they're interested in, what they want, trying to be able to gauge, pricing and how long they would be interested to be able to use the studios for rental wise. And we did hear back from a lot of them about they're very interested in being able to utilize an artist studio space. And so we're excited to be able to offer this amenity within the facility. So we're looking at 6 private artist studio spaces, 5 of them with long-term rental spaces for up to 6 months. And so the reason why we're looking at long-term rentals is because that's what artists are really looking for. And that's really what we heard in that space, where they have all their equipment, they have all their canvases or paints. They want to be able to create and be able to, keep all of their supplies and their artwork in one space. And the main reason why they're doing this is because they don't necessarily want to work out of their home. They want to be able to go to work, be able to get work done, undistracted. But the other thing is they also want to be supported, and they want to have an environment where they are working with other artists and they have to feel that community, that space, and be able to ask for that criticism and that feedback in regards to, what do you think of this? And so that's a great important opportunity for artists to be able to do that. And we're excited to be able to include this within the Art Center as well. 5 long-term rentals. We're looking at staggering those rentals in regards to when they would expire in regards to those 6 months. Part of that is we really want to create that culture within those artist studios in that space where they all feel supported. And if you have, 6 people or 5 people come in at one time and then 5 people leave, your culture changes significantly. So we want to be able to bring them in, be able to create a culture there where it is supportive, it's fun. We will have a break room and a number of amenities that will be available. So we want to make sure that we take that care and make sure that we do have that culture there. And then we are looking at keeping one of those studios available on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis for those artists who have a show coming up and they got to create 10 pieces in the next month. And they're like, all right, I need space to work. So we really wanted to make sure that we did keep some space and some time available for those artists. It could be a crafter who is, it's coming up on the holiday season. I really need to create this number of items to be able to sell that in my store. So we're looking at being able to provide those opportunities. So we've looked at that as different opportunities for long-term and short-term rentals for artists. The different amenities we have here, and we've heard from our in the survey that is really important that, for private studio space, storage, water, all these sorts of things are very important to them. And then we also have here the rental prices of what we're looking at. And these rental prices are comparable to what other people would pay in other studios for the same amenities. And we really tried to look at sizing of studios. We tried to look at different amenities and what people had. And every studio is a little bit different in that space. And if you looked at the comparisons, you'll see that in this general vicinity in the Tri-Valley, there's only one other artist studio space that is renting to artists, and that's at the Bothwell, which is about the same size that we're offering. We offer private studios, which is not private there. And then we also have different amenities that would be beneficial for our artists there. So the artist pricing is looking there for the rentals. In addition to the 6 artist studios, we're also looking at 2 music or sound studios within the same spaces as well. So looking at 2 soundproof music and sound rooms. These would be great for music lessons, private lessons, rehearsing for shows. Just practicing in general music. I'm sure there's some parents who would want to get their kids out of the house. So this would be a great opportunity for that. Podcasting as well, and also voice recording. So these sound studios would be a great opportunity. We do have some interest from one of our contractors who wants to, or for actually a couple contractors who are interested in doing private music lessons. We really wanted to make sure that these sound studios were really available to the public and available for private businesses as well. So we're not looking at locking anybody into a long-term basis. We really want to make sure that they're available. So we were looking at an hourly basis for the rentals. And so that could be, we could bring in potentially a private studio to be able to do lessons in one and to be able to keep the other available for the public as needed. We're going to really kind of see, we know that the demand is there. We really want to see, how that works and make sure that we do have enough space readily available to the public, not just for private uses. So we're going to make sure that we pay attention to that. And then the hourly rental rates are also listed here as well. And I previously mentioned our art gallery. Our art gallery is going to be expanded by about 300 square feet or maybe a little bit more than that. And so we're excited to be able to do that. with the expanded space, we'll also be able to bring in pedestals and temporary walls. So that way we can be able to provide additional ways to configure the art gallery spaces. We'll be able to have pedestals for three-dimensional art, which we don't currently have at the Doherty Station Community Center. So we're excited to be able to provide different opportunities for artists to be able to exhibit their art in the upcoming year. We are going to keep the art gallery program the same as it is for 2023. We do have artists already scheduled to exhibit in the space starting in June once the facility comes online. So we're excited to be able to do that. One thing we're also looking at doing, and this will go before the Arts Advisory Committee and come back to this committee or back to this commission as well, is looking at how we do our artists and how we do our exhibits within the Doherty Station Community Center as we move forward into 2024. With a number of different students, a number of different classes, a number of different artists who may be renting space, there's different ways that we can be able to have art shown within the facility. And so we want to be able to support the artists within that building, make sure that they feel ownership of that building, make sure that they feel connected to the building. And exhibiting art is definitely a great way for them to be able to feel a part of that community that we're trying to build at the Art Center. So we will be looking at different ways to be able to do that. And so we will provide some suggestions when we get to 2024. And as I mentioned previously, with some free and low cost programs that we want to offer, we do need to be able to offset some of those operational costs. And so we will be continuing our facility rental program as we have in all of our facilities. The updates and the renovation to the facility will definitely be a bonus for us to be able to continue to rent the Ridgeview room, the front row theater, and other rooms that we have within the spaces. The nice thing about the front row theaters, they'll be gaining a green room, which will be very advantageous for any of our theater renters. It has been a number one topic of conversation with a lot of our theater renters regarding the front row theater, and we're excited that we are able to add that to our list of facilities that we can be able to offer. So we do expect to see an uptick in rentals for the front row theater in the future. The fees for the facility rentals are included in the annual fee resolution, as you see on a regular basis. And so what I provided is the list of fees that we're looking at. We do have a couple new spaces. And so we've talked about the artist studio and the music and sound studio spaces. Those are the proposed fees that we are looking at. In addition, we do have a new program space that does not have a fee attached to it. And so the fee here is listed is comparable to the West Meeting Room, which is about this approximate same size. So we've used that fee structure and looking at the second floor program room that we're looking to add as well. So these are the proposed fees that we are looking for you to review and approve tonight. In addition to presenting this to you this evening, I've also taken this to the Teen Council, the Arts Advisory Committee, and the Program Committee and received feedback. Some of that feedback has been integrated into the presentation I've given you this evening, but I did receive a lot of really good feedback that we are considering and looking at and we'll be taking forward as well. And with that, that is my presentation this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation and a lot of work on in there. Thank you. Thank you for that. We definitely need this. A dedicated center for art and this is definitely. Couple of clarifying questions is, I see 477 response. Only 21% is actually involved with the art.
Correct. So
That's true. And then so again, I don't know how to put this question here. So with the 21% actually artist giving us feedback
so
on the art.
Yeah. So not everybody identifies as artists who responded to the survey. And I think that's actually a benefit for us, where we sent the survey out to the entire community via Facebook, social media, email blast to all of our community. In addition, we also targeted specifically to our artists that we have on our artist interest list. We have a number of those. 22% of the people on the survey identified as an artist, as either a professional artist or as a part-time artist, a performer, instructor, something in that realm. We have a lot of students who may not identify as an artist. We have a lot of arts patrons who don't identify as an artist. And that's really where we're going to be, where we took a lot of the data from is what are people interested in seeing? Not necessarily people who are artists who would come already to the facility, but gathering information from the entire community to say, okay, what is it that the community is looking at? What is the community seeing? What is it they're interested in potentially turning into an artist? And so 22% of them are artists, but I think the greater part is that we had 78% of people who were not identifying as artists, who are interested enough to be able to talk about arts with us and be able to share their opinion of how they could turn into artists or arts patrons.
So you're saying more than 22% people who are actually something to do with art, but don't identify themselves as art.
Correct.
The other thing is that I see that, I don't know, probably, I'm looking at the rates here.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at residence rate is lesser than nonprofit. Is that the standard way to do that?
In general, it should be a little bit more. Which rate are you looking at?
I'm just looking at the page here. So last one, you have fee resolution updates, music studio. So Sandavan residence pays $20 per hour, whereas nonprofit pays $25 per hour. Is it the standard rating that we have?
For this one, yes.
When I go to the next one,
Yeah.
so 65 for the residents pays that nonprofit, because somehow I had a feeling that nonprofits pay
Less than resident.
Again, I could be wrong, but it just struck my eye.
For the facility rentals, I'm gonna have to defer to Kathy on this. Sorry, I don't know the facility side as well.
Yeah, you know, it depends. That's great feedback. We can take a look at the fees if that's of a concern to you. I think generally we try and make the resident rate the best rate. And it depends on the nonprofit in the room and how they kind of all go together. So in this occasion, the non-resident and the commercial. So if I think of that as somebody who wants to teach violin classes, this is the music studio, the one I happen to be looking at. So my resident wants to use it, they should get the cheapest rate. We want the resident to use it. If somebody, a commercial wants to use it, well, that should take second fiddle and they should pay more because they're going to charge for it. And non-residents don't pay taxes. So they should, again, pay more. And so I know you're saying the nonprofit. And so that it depends. So it could go.
So nonprofit, if you say charge them more, they will find somebody who is resident and try to rent it through that.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. I know that. This is how it works. So even if we can keep them at least equal, then we will get more nonprofit kind of organization to join it. Otherwise, they will do their whatever they have, but they will rent it through somebody else.
I would suggest we probably want to bring that for further discussion.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
Yeah, I think actually, if I'm hearing you correctly, though, if the nonprofit co-sponsor rate was the same as the resident rate, that would probably be more feasible.
Yeah.
If that's what I'm hearing you. I think the majority of these rooms, honestly, would probably, quite honestly, didn't pay as much attention to the big group because we know the room is 10 by 10. So it's small, but you could have like a Girl Scout troop maybe, but you can only fit 3 people in it. So, but I think we could do that.
Yeah.
If that kind of hits that mark for you, then we could just slide that over.
So last question about or the clarifying question is sound studio. What is it? Soundproof room? I get that. Will there be any other equipments like recording?
Yeah, and we are working on that currently. So that was a discussion that we had previously in one of the meetings. And so, yes, we're looking at whether it's feasible for us to be able to purchase equipment, whether it's easier for us to be able to rent equipment or provide opportunities for the renters to be able to rent equipment on their own. So we're looking at those different possibilities, just depending on funding.
Commissioner Breed?
Thank you, Chair Kennison Lee. A couple of questions for you, Adam. I read about the fiscal impact and I'm struggling to understand, is this going to be a cost to the city? Is it going to be cost neutral? Will generate revenue? And it says, so that's I'm still struggling with what all this, what it does to the city budget. So in general, and can you give me some indication what we think will happen there? Is it going to be cost? Is it going to cost more money to the city? That's what I'm trying to solve for.
Need some help?
If you'd like, Kathy.
All right. Well, the first piece of the puzzle that you have to think about is that we currently offer arts programming in lots of our facilities. Most of what we do are these contract-based programs. Those generate revenue to support themselves because it's mostly percentage-based things. So once we bring a lot of the arts programming we're doing spread out throughout the city, that's not changing our financial equation. That's just bringing it into the building. Okay, so that's one piece of this. The free things, yes, indeed, are going to cost the city some money, which we're trying to offset with the rental of the studios and the pieces that can make money. The first step in our budget development process is getting some fees in place, because then we can project better what that potential income is going to be and what additional costs we might have. But we are operating the Doherty Station Community Center as it is. The building's operating, that's part of built into our budget existing and keeping us at that 50-50. So this is really the incremental free things we want to do, balanced by the things that can generate revenue. And then if you want to get into a giant philosophical conversation, you can't look just at the arts, because the arts are never going to be a revenue leader ever, because they're kind of like the pool. They're always going to cost a little bit more. But when you look at the department and holistically as the whole unit, not just one, then you have some programs that can generate more funds that help offset some of those things that we need to do for the good of the community. And so it's a bigger picture. So the short answer, which I just answered in a long way, is yes. Are we trying to make this be a 50% cost recovery operation? That's the goal. That's our department goal. And that's what we attempt to do. And I think we'll probably be able to get there. It may, if we cost a little more in the first few years as we build, that would be a normal transition for us. Hopefully we can make up a little bit more in some other areas, but that's our goal. Get to that 50% cost recovery line.
Okay, that's helpful. And my, I guess I should ask you, my second, sorry, because it's all about fees, and Adam, it's just the way I roll. How do we, I still struggle on how we do residents, non-residents, and part that caught the eyes going on to is that it's just, there seems to be, it seems like we should, well, anyways, I'm struggling to understand how we do upcharge for non-residents versus a resident fee and nonprofit. Is there an equation that we use?
There is, and I think it's 25%. I'm trying to remember. I'll dig back in my brain. And that's the upcharge to the non-resident. And that's because residents pay taxes and should get priority and should get the best potential rate.
Yeah.
I admit I got myself tangled up in this because it doesn't go in that, or that nonprofit was on the other side. I think it's usually in the middle. And so I was like, wait a minute, what am I looking at? And so the primary one is resident, non-resident. That's what we do, 25% up. The nonprofits and co-sponsored are a little bit different because they're different for each area, so the co-sponsored field users are a different situation than like a co-sponsored Dublin San Ramon Women's Club or a foundation. So there's slightly different equations for each of them.
Gotcha. Because so I'll make a comment when I comment to those questions. The other question I have for you, Adam, is do we have guardrails if someone does artwork that is not correct, especially with freedom of speech and
correct,
so how do we handle if someone's in there doing art that's could be questionable?
So, and I think for the majority of our programs, the open art studios and those sorts of things, we do have guidelines within all of our galleries and all of our pieces where we don't allow we don't allow nudes in our galleries. But I think in spaces like we have done, live drawings before, with live models and those sorts of things. So there are appropriate levels of what we do, and I think it's within the bounds of our instructors of what they're teaching. And what it is that our students are following within that process. But we do have a code of conduct. And if it's outside that code of conduct, then we would take action with that.
So are we thinking about having if I run a room, a contract that outlines our code of conduct so they understand before they run a room or facility from us what our code is? Is there a process in place for that?
For anybody who's running a room, there's a whole list of policies and procedures that we have. And we are looking at those as well in regards to if we had a third-party instructor teaching a program. We do have some of those, and we're looking at some of those for our arts programs as well, how we might update those specifically for artists.
Okay, and the last question, sorry, I normally write this out, but I don't have time, is agility. So as we look around corners, will the facility have the agility to meet future needs of art. So good examples. What is it called? The pickleball. Thank you. Pickleball, we had the agility to meet the need of that in Iron Horse. And I know it's hard to see what the future is for arts, but do we have the ability to think around the corner, to think about what does the building have the agility to flex where we need to flex?
I think the nice thing is that we have a nice building. And we
Okay.
have the space. And I think that's more so than anything else, is if you have the space, you can be able to make a determination on how you use that space. And be able to bend it and move it and how you use it. I mean, currently we're bending it and moving it around and doing some renovations to make it fit the needs of where we think it should be right now. And it was built to fit the needs of what we thought it was then. And, you know, we could be able to find ways to be able to use the spaces that we have that meet the needs of our community at whatever point in time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Commissioner Osler.
Okay, thank you. Pickleball is my other fun thing to do. That's why it came first to mind. I thank you very much, Adam. Great presentation. This is very exciting. I love the arts. I love music. I love dance, all these things. And so having a center that will focus on that is wonderful and very exciting for our community. So my question, actually, we spoke earlier today because I was trying to decipher the survey and who received it and how it went out. So thank you for taking my call. And one of the questions I didn't ask you today was, you mentioned that it went to the community and to a group of the artists, community teachers that teach through the city of San Ramon. Were there musicians included in that group that received that survey?
There were. And so I couldn't give you the exact number. I don't actually remember the art. I don't have a good recollection of the artist list, but it's for any artist that we have that will perform with us, because we have a list specifically for anybody who's interested in performing with us for music or concert or anything like that. So they were included on that list.
Okay, great. And then my other question was around this, there are senior apartments that are right next door to this. Were the senior residents from that community part of this survey?
They were not specifically targeted for this survey in 2021. They were not.
Okay. And then I wanted to also find out about the comparable properties or studios. So thank you for doing all the research. Were these other sites visited in person?
The only one we went to was the Bothwell. We went and did a site visit specifically at that location because it was the closest. We did do a lot of internet research and looking at pictures in regards to what some of those studios are. Some of our flats and large spaces, some of our redeveloped buildings, some are older buildings. But you know, we tried to look at comparable amenities that we had and space is what we looked at in regards to our comparables.
Okay, great. And that's what I heard you say is Bothwell really sort of was the most comparable to what we have.
Correct. And for our centers, we will have, the Bothwell doesn't have specifically private studios. And so that's one thing that we will have within the spaces that we will have for these artist studios.
And I noticed in some of the comments, there was mention about outdoor space. Has that been, is that still on the table?
Yeah, for outdoor space, for just general use of outdoor space, we do have a lovely courtyard outside. There's nothing that we would be able to have that's reservable or rental, but we do have spaces that artists can be able to engage in the outdoors in the courtyard area that we have between our facility and the library and DVC. There's a number of different areas, and we are looking at different ways to be able to engage that outdoor space, as we have currently a sketching class that likes to meet outside and was rained on the other day. You know, we would look at ways to be able to engage in nature and art, not just within the facility, but also outside the facility, because we have a lot of nice walking trails and spaces that we can use too.
Okay, thank you.
Student Commissioner Gupta.
I know you mentioned the dance studio and how there's going to be one at this space. And I think that's wonderful because I know personally at my high school and even at Doherty Valley, there is Bollywood dance groups and just other dance groups that are kind of more, I guess, cultural dance groups and not the traditional dances that really like to meet, except since they're clubs, they usually don't have spaces to meet often. And I can definitely see them using this space. And so I was wondering, I know you mentioned that the sound studios are going to be soundproof. Is the dance studio also going to be soundproof?
The dance studio is not going to be soundproof exactly. We do have, you know, buffers and stuff like that, but the sound does bleed through some of the areas. But we are excited for student groups and other groups that we know of that are, you know, practicing out of people's garages and parks and those sorts of things to be able to provide opportunities to be able to use this space as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? And we're gonna go to public comment. And we do have one comment card to Watts Country.
So this is my second time hearing this presentation, and my gratitude for Mr. Chow is still the same. He put in a lot of efforts, and this is a wonderful program. For some reason, though, probably because of your inspiration, I have some additional questions and maybe comments for him. I'm wondering on the free classes, since I just heard that it is only 50% self-paying, so there may be a deficiency. Are we going to then have to pitch our finance committee, for a CIP budget, next year? And if you would, consider getting my help as a taxpayer, I can help you in the following ways. I'm thinking, if you would possibly gather all the artists, work, and then put it up here for auction at our beautiful rotunda at a holiday situation where we can all dress up, cocktail kind of thing, I will come. And then that might help you raise money to pay for these artists. Hopefully they won't be starving, but I would be happy to help. Question also regarding sales proceeds, would there be any taxes revenue that we can possibly benefit as a city? If I indeed buy something at the fundraiser, I would hope that you would, kind of tax me as well reasonably, not to bankrupt me, but so that we can also contribute to the sales revenue for the city. So I won't be blamed for not selling my house because you guys are expecting me to flip my house, because I live in Doherty Valley, but I can help buy things if you would let me. About the art studios, if somebody is lucky enough to rent it, is there a time limit where you would ask them to renew their contract? Or are you able to go in there and inspect? For example, if they bring in food, would there be any, something that grows in there? What about trash? If they don't take out trash, what are those policies? And then lastly, sort of like a personal interest question. If I want to bring in, say, like a sewing machine, would I be allowed to? And if I want to do it as like a business, would I be able to use that studio as my BOD address? Thank you.
Do you have any online public comment?
No, we do not.
We're gonna go and close public comment. And then I'm gonna ask if the program committee would like to say anything to kick off commissioner comments. Any other commissioner? Open to any commissioner, anyone.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Commissioner Bree.
So, hey, Adam, I didn't say this because it was a question comment. I think you did a really nice job and you've touched all the bases on the artwork. I'm just trying to stay within the framework that we're supposed to stay in. So really good job. And I like how you guys have already thought about, the classes, and we're trying to meet all the needs within the community. So I think it's really well done. So first of all, thank you so much and good job in the presentation. The thing I struggle with, and the reason why I may not align tonight is I'm struggling with the financial aspect, and I like to see what the budget is, because I'm not comfortable approving something that I just don't know what it's going to cost, and what the budget looks like from a cost standpoint. So that's kind of the holdup I have personally on it, because I think everything's awesome, right? So, and then it sounds like we're protecting ourselves from a standpoint of if someone goes off policy, we got good processes in place in that way. So, the only other feedback I have for you was the sound studio. I just wonder if one's enough, with that. The other thing is, I think what would be really cool, I guess if I'm allowed to use that word, I think a lot of high schools have like bands, and this is me living in my rock and roll life, but you know, back in Liverpool or different parts of the world, they open up a place on Friday or Saturday nights or during the weekday for local bands to come play and practice. And how do we encourage that? You know, who knows, we might have the next big rock and roll band come out of San Ramon, but you know, is there a way that we can foster that type of music? And I think you mentioned it earlier on Front Rows, but I just want to make sure I'm real clear on it. And then yeah, that's just, I read that it's 6 months on a contract, and you said, hey, we're gonna have a lottery. I read that we're gonna have a lottery. And I think the lottery party would be it's residents first, and if we don't have enough people, then it'd be residents and non-residents. Okay, cool, got it. So anyways, thanks for going through this, struggling with the fee stuff, just you know, how we did, because I have students in math that just it's 25 to 33, whatever. And then I just not sure. I'd like to see more of the financials on it. So, all right, good job though. Thank you.
So tonight, we're actually going to be asked to approve and approve or not approve that. They'll be asking for a vote to push it to city council. Is that correct?
We are not going to city council on this at this point. Am I correct, Kathy?
If I can, if I can just interject, I think that the plan is not to take the whole plan to city council, because the majority of this falls under the purview of the Parks Commission. The fees would be going to city council as part of the fee resolution, depending on when that facility opens up. We may have to take the fees earlier or not, but the general plan is more of a conceptual plan that is within your jurisdiction that we can work off of. So we're not going to, correct, but just like any of our fees, they would go through the city council approval process.
Agreed. If you have additional questions, or if you need to dig a little deeper to decide whether or not you want to approve or not, I just want to make sure we all know that what we're being asked to do tonight.
Yeah, and my point was, I read what our recommend action, right? It says including our program, event, studio, and rental fees. And rental fees I'm struggling with. So if everything else I'm fine with, but rental fees I just don't think we got it nailed yet.
Well, I think if I can add on to that, I think, you know, one of the things with this facility, and like Kathy mentioned, and I don't want to, but is we're taking multiple aspects of our department and we're now moving it into one facility. And we kind of did that before, where we have classes and rental programs and now the theater programs. And so there's going to be all of these different pieces kind of coming together. And that coming together piece is the piece that we're working on. So the way we currently budget is all of these areas are in different buckets, if that's a way to put it. And the classes are handled one way and so on and so forth. And with this facility, it's going to give us an opportunity to create that synergy together where we could see our, for example, our Front Row Theater revenue has been at blank. Well, with the increase of this activity and the synergy around this place and the green room and all of those kind of things, we see an increase of that usage, which will in return have an increase of the fees. That would be the same concept for those other things, whether it's the classes, the events, the rentals, as well as our facility rentals that may not even be art related, that are using some of our more multi-purpose rooms type of a thing.
So, and I might add one bit here too, as Brad was just saying, the facility rentals. So right now, the Ridgeview room is rented by people for weddings, crab feeds, social gatherings, etc. They'll still happen there. They have nothing to do with the arts, and we don't intend to derail them because they are good revenue sources for the facilities, but they do not sit in the arts budget and never probably will sit in the arts budget. They sit in the facilities budget. So whilst I know your desire to see this, I think we'll be able to tell you the arts budget, or we can have an arts budget discussion, but we also have another big theater, and that's part of the arts budget. So to narrow out just what the arts center costs are, that's not how our budget's set up. Now, what we do really need is some feedback on whether or not you think those art studios are priced even close to right. Because in order for us to develop the rest of the budget, we need this building block. And so, yes, ultimately the city council approves fees. We may not be able to kick that off and start it in March or April when the building opens. We may have to wait till July 1 because we don't have an approved fee. if we know what this fee is, we might take it early so that we can hit it with a bang rather than having to kind of have this, okay, well, we'll start as soon as we have a fee. But those kind of fees start at you all. So if we haven't provided enough comparison data on those, then that's good feedback. We'll come back with those right away because we have to put the budget together now. And that's the process. January, it's over. So we missed the budget window.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Mr. Bree,
Yeah,
you
my,
want to dig a little deeper on this, or should we go through the rest of the comments and then if you want to follow up?
I just add one more thing, and I think with this, with what we're proposing, it doesn't change the impact of we're not looking at changing the impact of our overall department budget. In other words, these programs, the fees are going to help us because we're still going to try to get to that cost recovery that we do as a department every year. And that's going to help us with those things that we can and we can't do. So if we can bring in more money with the facility, we can offset with some of those other less cost things, so on and so forth. So it's kind of but we're still going to strive for that percentage that we strive for every year with this facility,
Yeah, and-
throughout our department budget.
my only comment on this whole thing is I got it and I trust you.
Yeah.
But trust and verify is kind of where I'm at right now, because if all of a sudden if my job is say, hey, I think the fees are right, we're gonna pass the city council, I got my stamp of approval. I don't. You know, I looked at the percentages. If all of a sudden Kathy says it's 25, some are 33, some are, and Partha called out the non-profit fees. We need to get those right for me to prove that everything else is amazing. I'm totally aligned, but I just think we shouldn't rush it. We should get the fees right. And even the nonprofit and come back and say, okay, we got it all fixed. So that's just my opinion. I mean, everyone else could vote for it, but I'm just being straight up with you on how I just think we need to have that real part right and know the financials really well and say to the city council, hey, we've done our due diligence. We think we're going to be okay. And we'll be within the guardrails you want because they trust us to do that work. So that's just my point of view on it. And our citizens do, right? So
Kathy, in terms of timing, what's your, when does this body need to approve the fees in order for it to get to city council and be on time?
Well, it can, if we got them next month in December and we got this straightened out, then we might have a shot at opening the art studios with the grand opening of the building. If we really miss that, then the rest of the fees start to move on their process. It can pick up with the rest of the fee resolution in end of January, and we will be able to charge that fee in July. So that's really it's really the question. So I think we've got great feedback. We'll go internally and decide what we need to do, whether or not we can bring that back in January, or if we'll wait until the fee resolution starts its journey at the end of January.
So we can wait to the end of the discussion to decide what the commission's pleasure is. So we haven't gotten there yet. However, I just want to make sure we knew what the options were. Okay, so it sounds like there's some time, just FYI. But let's continue with the comments.
Person so far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. Yeah, I just wanted to ask that question so we knew what as we're all contemplating. Okay, so Commissioner Mitra.
Yeah, just quick one, and probably it would be a clarifying question. So that Adam we're talking about the community performing thing, right? Is it something going to be very formal, like a what is that theater? What is that theater we have there?
Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, that one. Will that be a the area and timing where people can join there? No, there'll be some performance there, or is it just ad hoc basis? Somebody says and get their friends and do their performance.
Well, it would definitely be scheduled. So we would need to be able to schedule some things, and we're still working out the procedures on how we would do it and those sorts of things. But it would be something that we have heard and that we want to be able to provide and offer. It may only be able to be one community group per month. It may be 2 a month, just depending on scheduling and what rentals we may have or what other events that we have going on. But I think really we would want to make an effort to make sure that we do publicize some things, provide an opportunity for the public to be able to attend, to perform to an audience, which I think everybody really wants to be able to do. But that's kind of
like a private event. I'm trying to understand. So it's kind of a private event that can be open for public.
It would be a public event. It would not be a private event. Okay. So it would definitely be a public event.
And then you have to, if it is a public, then you have to publicize it somehow so that people know that.
Correct.
Okay.
And for clarity, you're talking about the Front Row Theater, not the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center.
For front row.
Yes,
Yes.
front row, the little one.
Yeah.
Commissioner Missler?
So I want to go back to are the studios going to be open on the weekends?
Yes, so the general operating hours, what we're looking at is 8 a.m. Or excuse me, 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then Saturdays and Sundays approximately 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. We are looking at opportunities to be able to have the artist studios available 24/7 for the artists. So we're looking at security purposes and how we would be able to do that and have access, but that's not been confirmed yet. That's something we're looking into right now. But for the most part, operating hours, they would easily have access during that point. But we are looking at it. That was something that was brought up earlier.
Would we have a studio manager that would be on site during all those hours because if, people are coming and going?
During operating hours, when our normal operating hours, we would have a building attendant or a facility person available. That's why we're looking at the after hours access and seeing that's something that's feasible for us. Security is obviously a big thing, and safety. And so that's why we're looking at it. We haven't officially said we're going to be able to do that, but we're looking into that, see if that's something that we will be able to do or not.
Okay. Another question I had was about the music and sound studio. I think I read that it can only have 4 people in it because of the size of the room.
Yeah, it's a 10 by 10 space, so it's not very big, especially if you have equipment or any of those other sorts of things.
So yeah, that was what I was thinking is that might be a great place for a band to practice. They might have to bring their amplifiers and there may be 4 in the band and there's a, mini drum set travel drum set. Would that accommodate a group like that?
It would be tight, but it is, anything's possible for to squeeze people into spaces. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it is possible.
I think 4 teenagers in a band, no. But I do think you could get somebody with a guitar and a keyboard, probably could do well, a lesson, maybe 3, maybe if you've got 4 people who are singing, I could get a 4-part harmony in there because they don't have equipment, but think really 10 by 10 easy up. That's the space.
Too small for a 4-person band with equipment.
I would say it is.
So is the intent more for like practice rooms or lessons?
Correct. That's more so the intent. It's more practice spaces. It's an amenity that's not available outside the schools in the community. And I think that's something that we have heard from parents, from musicians, that they're looking for a space that they can be able to use to be able to practice on a regular basis, whether they have a solo performance or anything else coming up that they would want to have that's more private for them.
Mm-hmm. There was a place in Walnut Creek called the Red House, and it was it's not there any longer, but it was a place where if you wanted to jam with others, you could perform with others. And that was a huge revenue generator. And I was just curious if, in reading this, wondering if this would even have a possibility for that kind of flavor where you could, we're talking about doing dance performances and art exhibits, but this could also be something that we could consider if we had the right space for it.
Absolutely. And so I think we do have a number of different spaces within the facility. Obviously, the front row theater is a good space for that. Possibly the Ridge Room, depending on what we have going on. So there are opportunities. So we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
I do remember Red House when we were doing all of our teen events in the loft, and back many years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It was a cool space.
it was.
So I want to kind of tag team with Commissioner Breed about really encouraging us to be very agile and nimble and creative with how we approach this, because, that pickleball, we didn't even know that was going to be something that was a rage 6 years ago. And now we're trying to catch up and communities are fighting to convert tennis courts into pickleball. So I feel that this is an opportunity for us to really kind of think future, not just traditional programs and music room, practice rooms, art rooms, but really thinking how can we work with this space and be nimble if we need to, and agile. So along that line, I was thinking about when we talked about the walking district, we had kind of a core, I guess we called it a charrette, a group that got together, and it was like 5 or 6 times, and it included end users, and included instructors, or not instructors, but end users for the community, the developer, and community residents, city. And I was just thinking that maybe that this might be another opportunity for us to take that model where we can take music people, not a lot. I think it needs to be kind of a core team, arts advisory representative, city rep, and having those voices around the table to really help craft this space and really think about those great opportunities that are here. So I just wanted to put that out there as a possible suggestion. I don't want to bog the process, but I think we have a lot of data here. Thank you for gathering that. But I think there's also people that are actually going to use this. They're going to be the ones that are going to know the best practices and what people really will use. The outdoor space, I think that we should think about that. I did read that in the comments. It'd be really nice. There's a lot of grass, and maybe just having just a small stage that can be either a poetry reading, it could be improv, it could be, music, and people can bring their own chairs or little blankets. And it's just, like on a Thursday night in the summer, would be something I'd like you guys to think about as well, because I feel like, just being indoors it's great, but also being outside will attract the folks from the senior housing facility that's nearby, and they may want to walk over and enjoy some music in the evening, or hear a play, or hear some improv. So I think that outdoor space, I don't know what our relationship is with that property. Is that DVC? Is that city property? Is it, because the grassy area goes from DVC in front of the library to this community center.
Yeah, and we do have space. We do have space all the way up to the backside of the library, city property. So
Okay, great. I'd like to consider you guys to think about that too. And yeah, that was it. Thank you very much. I'm excited about this.
Well, thank you for the many details and everything. And I like the idea. There's been some couple of ideas that I hadn't thought of that would be good. I do have a son-in-law who is a quote, we call him the starving artist. But this would be some of these things I can see, having him, that how he does his life and everything. And one of those spaces with going in and painting and all before program or a event that he's going to display at or something. Those are great ideas, and renting them as not renting it as a month or something, but weekly or by the hour is great. So I can, I can see some of those things. And I know that many times in our church, a lot of times we have people coming and wanting to do music because you have a piano or organ. So that is something that people would, I think, make use of very much, to come and practice there, that they could, can't do it in their home or whatever. So, and I know that I've been on the arts, and the finances don't bother me so much as maybe is Commissioner Beer, that I've seen the things that it's going to be. I don't think we'll make it at first, but I think it will build up, because I think there's plenty of things here that, reading all these comments that we had, I think that there's a use for most of all the things you've thought about. So I thank you for your input of all this detailed work that you've done and thinking of things. So I think we're on the right path.
thank you.
Commissioner Ellicott-Pesce?
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the presentation. It's been, I guess we've gone through this in some capacity a few times, and it continues to evolve. As a resident of Doherty Valley for the last 16 years, I've often wondered at the underutilization, and we have used it at times, but it's been a space that has been, I think, wanting this kind of opportunity. And I'm really excited about it. I am not an artist in any way, but I am really excited about all that you're bringing together. So I compliment you on the time. Obviously, this has been a very, very long time. A lot of work gone into it, and I think it's really effective. I'm excited about it. A couple of the comments have inspired a couple of thoughts, and again, that nimble, things are evolving, I was thinking about, well, what is missing? What could be the next thing? And again, I'm no artist, but I was thinking about electronic and digital arts and whether that's something you've already thought about in terms of lighting and being able to, light and dark the area. Beyond that, I think we've reached my capacity of imagining what could be the future. I am also very excited about any prospects you might be able to think about for the future as this evolves with using outdoor space. And, thinking about like, a sculpture garden or, something to where you could also display, obviously that has some limitations as open space, but being able to display art or utilize the outdoor space in some capacity, I think could be very exciting. I keep going back and forth on the art studios and the music in that, do we have enough? Can we really allow people to hold them up for 6 months at a time? I think you have a better sense of that. I think my biggest thing with respect to fees or in general is, under promising and over delivering a little, wanting to be careful that you don't lock up the space so long that people can't get in. I think about sometimes like the community gardens where they're long wait lists and we have a very finite resource. At the same time, I hear what you're saying. People need to be able to rely on a space they can continue to use, which is better than them sitting empty. So I think that's something I'm guessing you guys will play with a little bit as you unfold and see how that evolves. And that's something that I guess I would be looking at I'm comfortable with what you guys have proposed with the fees right now. Clearly the research has gone into it. There may be a fine-tuned question about a nonprofit resident here or there, just some, the fresh set of eyes. I don't know. It looks, I saw that one piece. But again, I think this is something that you all will be reevaluating regularly. And I would encourage us as a commission to give them the blessing to move forward if people are comfortable, so we can get this launched and start the process. So long as we're not saying we're setting this into a 5-year decision. And again, I don't know what the process is. I'm assuming we are able to reevaluate fees every year. So it seems to me, I'd rather the space not sit empty and underutilized. I'd like to get going. And also, I've said that a lot, I apologize. I really think it's really important to balance the usage. We pay taxes. We've paid for some of this space. So I think it's really critically important that not only do we provide resident rates, as you have done, but providing these entry opportunities for a free or a drop-in class. I don't think that is a problem. And again, to me, that's going to be an evolving process. You're going to see how that works. And to me, what you'll do is you'll get somebody like me to commit to doing an art class with a friend. And it's so fun. Now I want to, a drop-in or a free occasion. And now I want to sign up for a class. So to me, this is absolutely, the way it ought to be, both in introducing our public and our community to give them the option to try different things. And one of the things that I have a problem with is not even signing up and paying the fee. It's committing to something. So for 6 months or whatever, can I really go on a Wednesday night? No, I have a commitment. So having that drop in, I think is really great. So maximizing use of space, balancing the opportunity to our residents, giving our teens a space, getting this going, opening it up and moving it. I'm a big fan of it, and just encouraging us to be agile and thoughtful so that if we have to increase the fees later, we can explain it. And at the same time, whatever we do, I want to keep the space accessible, especially to our youth. So, there might be an opportunity where we have rates for youth to participate and give them some opportunity as well. So generally speaking, I'm excited about it. You mentioned the late hours, and I think whether it's a late or a 24-hour access, I am curious, when that building is unlocked. And if you have somebody who wants to go in and use it after hours, I don't know if after hours at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., maybe not midnight, I don't know, Are you guys going to use like a key code access where you know who's in the building? Are there going to be cameras outside the building so somebody isn't letting in a group of their friends? I mean, I think whether you're allowing 24-hour access or not, I'm thinking that if you're allowing after hours access, you're going to want to think about knowing who's going in and out of there and being able to track that. But I can see that's on your mind. So I'm excited, and obviously we have more commissioners to hear from, but my sense of things is this has been thoroughly researched, thoroughly worked, and you guys will make adjustments, and you'll come back to us and let us know what's working and what's not. And we'll get adjustments from there. So I think we ought to get moving is my 2 cents when the time comes.
Anybody else? Okay. I don't really have a lot to say. I mean, the arts are so critical in our community, and I really support them. And I know you guys have done a lot of work and really thought through this, but I do want to validate that Commissioner Breed is rightfully thinking about the dollars and cents, because that's what we have to look at. And we also, to Commissioner Ellicott-Pesick's point, our model is that we are developing people and providing community services and creating community, and it's certainly not gonna make profit. And our goal is the 50%, the 50 cents on the dollar, right? That's our goal. And so I think we need to keep that in mind as well. I think sometimes you can look at phased approaches. Are we in a position to provide as much free programming right off the bat, or do we need to see the rentals really prove themselves and get that revenue going, and then we are at liberty to maybe entertain some more free programs? Maybe a phased approach is what we look at. Something to chew on, something to think about. The other thing is the residents versus nonprofit. I absolutely support giving residents that little bit of discount. Nonprofits, we don't know, are the folks that would participate from San Ramon. We don't know. It's a nonprofit. Many of us have done work for many a nonprofit, and we know that it's important to their operations to have those discounts. But as we say, our residents have paid taxes. They should always be our first priority. We should be keeping them in mind. So from my perspective, it looks like staff is asking us to review, which we've done, and approve the Art Center program plan. In our staff packet, or our packet, you're asking us to approve arts programs, events, artists and sound studio concepts, and rental fees. So it was pretty inclusive ask right there. So we can entertain a motion and if possible second and have discussion. We can see where that goes. I mean, this could be all over the place. We don't know where we're gonna go, but let's start with a motion.
Well, I would be subject to approving, and I'm trying to find the sheet that says what we're supposed to say here. And
It's right there.
yeah,
You got it.
yeah, because I've done mine all messed up and all. So I would move that we approve the proposed Doherty Station Community Arts Center program plan, including art programs, events, artists, sound studio concepts, and rental fees.
Okay, do I have a second? Commissioner Ellicott-Pesick is the second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Oops. Do we get it? So we have a 5-1 motion passes, and we have 1 absent. Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. Good. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go to item 9.1 staff reports. I'm sure everybody took a look, or is there anything you want to highlight?
Yes, just briefly, in the rec report, I know you probably all got a chance to look at it, but if not, I think the Finis swim apparel photo shoot at our San Ramon Olympic pool was super cool, with that added bonus of the SRVLA swimmers getting tips from Olympic athletes, which apparently they were able to use later when they had a meet. So they were really excited about that. So that was really kind of fun. We love it when we do get those professional photo shoots. Those are rentals. They pay a premium to use our beautiful aquatic centers for those kind of things. Also in the rec report, we did try and answer your question in regards to the teens that we had from the last one, that 28% of our summer camp participants are actually age 11 and up. And the majority, you can see we're getting really solid reviews. So if you have more questions on that, of course, we can always answer that. But I think that was the nut of one of the questions. We had our first ever pickleball tournament. Really
Yep.
exciting. I love the photos from it. People look so excited. And then on the public works side, that Rancho San Ramon Park batting cage repair, that was the one that was ripped apart. Not really sure what happened there, other than it may have been maybe potentially a rogue cricket because they need that longer pitch. But anyway, it's put back together. Cross your fingers, it stays because it's costly repair. The Bark and Ride, that's another one in there. So that's the beginning of that dog park CIP. And so the putting in of turf. So the good and the bad of that one is the turf's going in, but no one's going to be able to use that dog park for a little while because the turf's going in. So right now the little dog side is still, I think, the DG, and it's still available, but the big dog side is now closed while that happens. So that's in there. And then of course the painting of 5 structures at Forest Home Farm. So just a few highlights.
Can I ask you a question about this ride and Bark and Ride thing? So when is it going down or going?
I
on,
think
is it
I think they just
20
closed
20
it.
It's just closed it?
What do you know, Stacy? They just closed
14
it.
November.
Yes,
Will be
well,
closed. Oh, okay, I see, 14 November. And it will coming back up on February 28th? Reopening on February 28th, right?
yeah, I don't have the dates up memorized,
right,
but
right.
yes.
Yeah, now I'm looking at it right now, because this is the question I will be asked, so that I just want to make sure that I have the answer. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, anybody else on item 9.1? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
There you are.
So I also wanted to bring to everyone's attention that the Forest Home Farms, the San Ramon Historic Foundation has come up with the funds to help improve the garden, and there's going to be a whole renovation of the garden. So I think that's really exciting news that that's going to happen, and it's going to start. We're starting work soon, right? And also we're going to get lights on the barn. So that's also exciting.
Yes, we're working.
And you're-
Yes, we're working on both of those things.
So I looked over. So, yeah.
Okay, I was just gonna mention, because you mentioned under programs for adults 55 and plus, that you guys are seeing more older adults go by the senior center. And it reminded me that somebody had stopped me in Michael's, and was telling me about an Uber partnership with some of the cities. I think they do it in Walnut Creek and Hayward to increase senior transportation. And I think they do some kind of discount and some kind of arrangement. So I'm just putting it out there for maybe staff to take a look at. And
We have it here.
we already do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have it. It's in the, I think it's Go San Ramon.
And
So
is it that's a dollar and cents thing? Is that?
Yeah,
that
it's-
because I've heard some of the communities are getting in the hole for it, or they're like, it's costing more than they budgeted.
yeah, I may not have all the perfect information on because a while ago, but yeah, we do have it. And it goes from certain areas of San Ramon. And I think it's aimed at seniors, but I don't know that they can actually verify as easily. So
That's awesome.
you have to use the Go San Ramon code.
Because I think just under our purview, we want to make sure that we have all these great facilities and programs. We need to work with transportation and make sure we're getting people where they need to go. And especially as our downtown areas developed, we'll want to get those folks if they need a way to get out to the art center, right?
Yeah.
So I want that to always be prevalent, hopefully. Okay, so do we have public comment on this item?
We do. And I should say our Go San Ramon, as long as you're still talking about it, it's a partnership with, I think, CCTA. So that's how we were getting the funding for it.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
One thing, hey Kathy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Kathy, I just want to say one thing on, because I did the Parks Make Life Better
Mhm.
thing. And I think what we do, taking care of our parks and the programs you got in place, and even how we take care of the physical problems we have is amazing. I mean, we're on top of it. Because I see something all of a sudden, I know you guys automatically fix it. So however you're auditing that stuff is really working well. And I think Parks Make Life Better it was amazing. I mean, one, it's really cool that we can get all that work done, but how we tied in volunteer hours. So I think it's really well done. So I thought I'd let you know.
I will pass that. That's our public works department is amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
And they have a whole total asset management system by which they keep track of all those attributes in the park and know when they're useful life and they're paying attention and trying to replace them as quickly as possible. But they'll love that compliment. So
It's fun to work on those events. I've done several of them, and it's fun because you talk with the other people and you can find out what they think and whatever too. So, if we ever get a chance, if I have a spare moment or something again, that it was kind of fun to do.
Just got to wear your old clothes.
That's okay.
I got paint all over my good stuff.
Oh, no.
It's all right. I
Just put on a pair of jeans and a pair of tennis shoes and go.
I know. I still want to do it. I'm good.
So, you said we have public comment on this one?
yes.
Okay. I
Do we
don't
have?
a card on this.
Oh,
one.
I didn't know if we did. I thought you asked if we had. it.
Okay. Okay. All righty. But I asked. Okay. All right. So let's go to item 10, Commissioner Liaison Reports and Announcements. I'll kick the ball off here with the City Council from October 25th. They recognize, I'll keep it really quick. Recognize the 2022 Planning Academy graduates. If you've never done that program, it's amazing if you want to learn about planning. The Arts Advisory Committee appointments were approved. Kathy gave her lovely urban parks educational presentation, and they really appreciated it. I think it's everybody sort of needs to understand what that looks like. And then Cindy Yee gave a housing element update. We just got through a 90-day review of our housing element by Housing and Community Development. We were not found incompliant, but just by a little bit, it sounds like. So they've been meeting with the HCD to figure out, they know sort of the areas that need to be addressed. But there's a deadline to certify by January 31st, I believe, 2023. And so I won't go through all of this, but at any rate, this is really important stuff. The city manager said the e-scooter program should roll out soon, that contracts have been signed. And that we're in the process of our finance audit. So that's good. As you know, last year we had a clean audit, as we always do, I believe. And so again, if you ever have interest, just go on to YouTube and check out a city council meeting. That's it. So why don't we go down the line, starting with Commissioner Breed? You lucky commissioner, you.
No, I mean, I will tell you for the team council, I was in Boise working, so I'm sure the commissioner will cover that for me, because Will was my sub and he's not here, so I didn't get a report from him. So on team council, but I'm sure we're gonna get that covered. So and then I would just say that the trick or treat, or what we did at the farm, was awesome, and then culture in the community was a great. I'm sorry, I know I got my back too. I hate that thing. But I know the culture in the community was awesome. I got it. Hats off to the commission, parks and
Adam.
It was really did a good job with it. And I thought it was well organized, and how we brought out a lot of diversity. So of the community was really embraced that day. So really nice job. Because I know that was a lot of work on not the most warmest day. So anyway, so that's my feedback. And I already talked about Parks Makes Life Better, but that's a really cool program. So anyways.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Hey,
Thank you.
Good job, Steve. Okay.
Thanks.
Commissioner.
Yes, okay, thank you, Chair. So we had a library advisory committee meeting on October 13th. And there are several things we discussed. Number one was we discussed about the upcoming story walk selection. So there are two proposals: Interstellar Cinderella by Deborah Underwood and Sophie's Squash by Pat Zitflo Miller. So the committee selected Sophie's Squash. I think it was good because they went through it, did a lot of debating, and finally chose that. So that was good. Is coming up. Next one, they talked about the transition from transition to in-house programming, and there are the Francis Wilson, the librarian. He went through all the in-house programming that they started. on that one. Many things like English as second language, college admission, Halloween, teens writing, youth reading, all those things they have started. And he also talked about there are 23 programs they did, 1,068 attendance, and self-directed. There are 12 programs that started. Lastly, they also talked about the committee. Was one of the annual goal they had, that they wanted to go community college, Dory Station Library and Sandomar Library in a different time and review them and see what's there happening and kind of report it back to the committee. So a few things came up that library committee members wanted to make sure that they go in a different time, different days, not all together in a Sunday morning, everybody there. So they wanted to distribute that. Committee also discussed the scheduling visit, so they will do that, and also they decided that it will not only be the full-time members but also the alternate members. Also, they wanted to include them as well on that one. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, and there was a staff report that.
Thank you.
Hope we covered that.
Well, I have a report from EDAC and I have a report for planning also. So it's been a busy time. So some of the things that Chair Heidi mentioned, that the 2 meetings of the planning evolved around the TRC company, a company that owns the property where the Nob Hill used to be. And they're building, proposed to be building individual 3-story homes. They are not affordable or low income. They are just regular, probably high-end homes. It's very complicated, as she said that the Planning Commission has given directions to the staff and assistant attorney that they felt that the compliances wasn't what they should be, but however it got done, that the letter was sent out and did not address that issue. So there's going to be some different issues coming up on the Planning Commission about who has authority to do what, and to get back to this so that there's problems on that issue. And then, as we know, that we have to have moving on to 5,000 homes. And so that it's going through lots and lots of processes. And if you want to really know, you must go to the YouTube to get all the details, because I can't comprehend all those statutes that they have to meet and the deadlines they have to meet and all, because I'd have to study a lot more. It's very complicated. And we have about half of ours, but we did not receive certification. And so they're working on that. They have more committee meetings coming up to reach that. And so the deadline is January 31 of 2023 that we have to reach the 5,000 and some homes. So that's very complicated because it takes a lot of time to try to get all that in your head. And then the development of 2481 Deerwood Drive had its second hearing, and that then they approved it, and that will go to the council for approval for that one. And the El Nido home on San Ramon Valley Boulevard has some new changes, and then they will be having special meeting to move this development along. So it has to go through some more programs. So just a fun thing from a planning is that the Burger King on the corner there of Crow Canyon is going under renovation. But they have to have some zoning changes. So that causes another issue that you have to do. So that'll be forthcoming. I'll have further information on that. So that was kind of a highlight from that's so deep involved in the planning. So that was it. But the EDAC meeting, we had not met since May.
Wow.
So there was a lot. I gave my report from all the things that we had done on the Parks Commission since May. So my thing was rather lengthy for them. But anyway, I thought they should know that everything that we've done. So that's my duty to tell them what goes in. I do get questions, of different things. So that was interesting. So anyway, but the presentations was very good today because they went into an EDAC overview and the city revenue overview and the discussions of about the city council and the EDAC having a joint meeting together. But the revenue was very interesting. As you all know, that we went through COVID, so we don't have as much money as they have. But he went over the revenue that we get is like, you know, for fast food places bring in the most revenue. And the home improvement is second. Then there's the, let's see, I can't even read my own writing, but there's drugstores, and then there's, the grocery store is first, and the drugstores, and then the auto, and then the dine-in restaurants. Gas is now increasing because we have have Costco that brings in monies there. Then interesting, the world headquarters, that we have a global company in our facility, but it doesn't bring any taxes because it's the global, the global is here. So the brains are here and everything, but the money is taken wherever they get issues of what they do. So we don't gain any money from there. Sales tax was a major discussion because we have an 8.75 base sales, and we really get about 4% of that, which is partly goes to San Ramon and BART, or the city and BART. And so there is lots of ways that they're looking at for our city, who is going to be doing more to try to see how we can receive more revenue, because we're going to be down next year. So the one thing that they were thinking of is looking at is for the when you have employees, maybe charging more money than they do now. You have to pay now for every 5 employees, and now they're thinking of moving it up to more employees that they'll be charging to get.
You're talking about
Businesses. So that was one of the things. And he did say that one of the interesting things when he goes out in speaking, that everybody wants a Olive Garden restaurant here.
Yeah.
But he wants to make sure that you know that, number one, you have to have the property that you can put a restaurant on. Number 2, it has to be zoned for a restaurant. And number 3, the person that's going to do this has, requirements and everything. So they want to be successful before they build a. But he said that's one of the things that he gets, asked questions on. Let's see. So that was the main things. And so the other things is that, online sales tax, the sales happen in San Ramon. 5% of the total of the sales is 2 million. And they compared it with the Tri-Valley cities and Walnut Creek. Well, we're kind of compared on the taxes with Walnut Creek, but they have a lot more things than we do. So we're kind of on the low totem pole with sales tax and the revenue that we take in from the Tri-Valley cities. Mm-hmm. The most is Livermore that gets the most. Dublin gets more for that because they have all those car dealerships. So that's, we're kind of on a bottom end of that. So it was very interesting how we see our money coming into our city and where it goes. And so it was very interesting to see how we get monies and how it's dispersed in the city. But in the future, we are looking to get more revenue because we will need it. Mm-hmm. Which is probably normal for even us as individuals. But anyway, so that was.
Well, I want to validate that those are 2 chunky committees. So thank you for taking the time and go and get those reports and for reporting to us. We appreciate it.
Senior Advisory Committee met on Monday, and we talked about the Live Well Resource Fair. Gave Susie Chow feedback. It was in our report. There were 300 attendees, and the feedback that was given was great. Let's invite the County Connection to be at this event. So they do want to talk about transportation. We also talked about the 2021-22 annual report review, and we're going to receive the Senior Advisory Committee annual report I believe at our December meeting. So they talked about that and their goals for the coming year. And then I guess this is announcements. October is a really busy family month for me with lots of family events and celebrations. And so I'm always kind of torn and pulled in a lot of different directions. But I did go to the farm trick or treat and with my little avocado, 19-month-old avocado, and it was so much fun. And there were so many people there and it was really great. Very, very fun event with my avocado.
Which is the best thing on the planet. I had occasion to be at the sports user group. I'm trying to think of the co-sponsored user group. They meet quarterly, and I am always so impressed with the way with which the various groups are able to cooperate. Even more impressed with the city staff, Mike Finelli, Jody McCurley, and that crew in what they do to put together those grids and try to meet the needs of our resident youth, primarily sports players, and making sure that they have access to our facilities, that the facilities, as in the fields, are in great shape, and then also trying to make sure we leave room for other folks to get permitted use, not through the user group. So great discussion, and we continue to have a tremendous need, and which is great. Our fields and our facilities are not underutilized in any way, but of course, the same thing keeps coming up as we've talked about earlier. It was cricket, I think, last year. This year is pickleball. Futsal is a big thing where, we for a minute had a facility in this community, one of the first facilities in the area, and now do not. And a lot of communities have it. And so they're looking to see if they can do outdoor futsal somewhere and repurpose. So something I have a feeling will be coming our way at some point. But again, really interesting to see how men's and women's baseball and softball and the little peewee football and the soccer and cricket and lacrosse and all of them collaborate to try and share space and organize it. So always a good meeting.
All right, and then from the Teen Council, so we actually did quite a lot for Unity Day. It was the anti-bullying day that happened in October, and we decided to, well, there were a few different things that we did. So first of all, we had the wish tree, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with, but it's right out there in front of the community center. And we encouraged teens around the community to kind of write notes either in solidarity or sharing their own experiences with bullying and put them up on the tree sort of as like a visual art display of our community, and especially the teen community and youth being united against bullying. And kind of to build on that, we decided that we would go to our schools and have a table up for, I think it was, well, at least California High School, since I was involved in their table. We had it set up for 3 days at lunch, and we kind of just had students come up to the table and write down notes, sharing their experiences. And then we brought it to the community center, and I think Jen put it up on the tree for us, which was lovely. And Doherty Valley did the same thing. I'm not sure how many days they had their table up for, but they also got quite a few notes from the students there. And it turned into a lovely display in front of the community center, and that was great. Yeah, and then we also, I think, posted pictures of this on our social media. So it was great to have some social media outreach with this as well. Yes. And then on another note, oh yes, the abbreviation. And then we also just started communicating with our ambassadors. Since we had the ambassadors approved at our last meeting, we started reaching out to them. And at Cal High, we actually had some of the ambassadors help us with the Unity Day table. So it was great to get them involved. It was a great way to start off the year for them, because they got directly involved in an event right off the bat. And I think we're going to continue communicating with them, especially with the other ones that don't go to Cal High, that didn't have because many of them are in middle school. So we didn't have tables at middle schools. So we're hoping to kind of engage them in other opportunities coming up. And then we had the Outstanding Teen Citizenship Award applications close. So we reviewed all the applications. It was a great time. There were some great applications, and we did pick a winner who will be announced at our next meeting on Tuesday next week. And off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it, but I can get back to you on that.
I think it was 18.
Okay. Yeah. So it was great to read all those applications, and I'm excited to announce that at the next meeting. And I believe that's all for the Teen Council report. Thank you.
Okay, and we do have one public comment card.
So I just want to piggyback off of the EDAC meeting. I heard you said that they haven't met since May, but they just met. And then I heard that you were there as I was writing the card. So if you would permit me, I will share with you some of my sentiments after attending that meeting. There is going to be a joint workshop that is scheduled for EDAC and the City Council to be scheduled next spring. However, I felt that some of the data that were shared in terms of the concerning issues involving our revenues were a little bit dubious. For example, the quote unquote e-commerce sales tax revenue at 5% turned out to be an estimate because that revenue percentage fluctuates. So to me, who is sort of mathematically brained, when I analyze data, it's not quantifiable. It is more like a qualifiable opinion. So I don't know how the workshop is going to tackle that, but I had requested for more, data to be charted for the commission. Same thing with the fact that I'm being sort of blamed for not flipping my house because the city, when they had built Doherty Valley, had sort of an expectation of the tax revenue that they can, gather if I should flip my house. But apparently we're not flipping houses frequently enough. And so when I asked for what is the deficiency, they weren't able to provide it. Apparently that is anecdotal. So then I'm not sure how that is going to be tackled in relationship with the state mandate of the 5,000 units, which the incompliant report that I read was also sort of qualifiable and not quantifiable because they didn't really address where we are missing in terms of numbers of units. They did say that we're not providing the units that we have already come up with in the inventory via electronic, message. So it seems like there's a lot of things that we are incompliant that is not related to how many units that we're not producing. So I just wish that all those, opinions, anecdotes, and assumptions can be clarified. I do have one comment for Teen Council. If you would, and I can't make your meeting next Tuesday, if you would kindly please consider moving your meeting date to another day, or at least not overlap with the district board meeting, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I think we're at the end. All right.
Awesome.
The meeting is adjourned.
All right, thank you.